In the past, after class ended, male and female students rarely mixed together. But now, male and female students were participating in activities together. During mealtime, male and female students sat together and chatted happily. In the mornings and evenings, there were male and female students taking strolls together in the school fields. Every time he questions these students, they would reply him that they were only friends. In the end, Officer Li gave up catching these students. Worked so hard, but got nothing in return. Later, he noticed that since he gave up finding these dating students, there were a few students that got into relationships. And those couples that were dating encouraged and helped each other in their studies to get into universities. Their grades improved instead. Of course, these were all afterward. The day Fong Yu stood up against Officer Li was named as Liberation Day by some students. A few decades later, it remained as a legend in the school. But the version was the N edition. Please support me using this link paypal.me/noobtranslator or Patreon. Although they tried to keep Fong Yu and Li Na relationship from his sister, Fong Danying, she still found out. Fong Danying confiscated Fong Yu's car keys and ordered Li Shiqiang not to drive Fong Yu to school. Anyway, the school was only a 10 minutes walk from home. This was her punishment for Fong Yu, who asked him to not study hard in school and start dating at such young age. Fong Yu was accustomed to the car, and to ask him to walk for 10 minutes would be killing him. When Dongjun thought of a way for him, the both of them bought 2 Forever brand bicycles. Someone had said before, after you learn how to ride a bicycle, it would be just like walking. Even if you had not ridden a bike for decades, you would still be able to ride once you got on a bike. Now, the mainstream mode of transportation was still bicycles, and Forever brand was the most popular. All the staffs at Tai Hua Trading ride Forever brand bicycles, and they were proud of it. Fong Yu carried his backpack, wore his Warrior brand shoes, jeans, t-shirt, a baseball cap, which was only sold at major departmental stores, and a Shanghai brand watch on his left hand. He happily hummed a song and rode his bike to school. Most of the people going to school or work were riding bicycles. They would ring the bicycle bells as a form of greeting. Fong Yu also felt that, in this weather, it was not a bad idea to ride a bike to school. This beautiful picture was destroyed by the appearance of somebody. It was just like dripping a big blob of thick, black and smelly ink on a beautiful painting. Why are you riding so slowly? We will be late. Are you eating this bun? If no, I will eat it. With a bun in his mouth, when Dongjun caught up with Fong Yu and gave him a slap on his back. You are wiping your hands on my shirt after eating again. When Dongjun pedaled hard and soon overtake Fong Yu, and Fong Yu started to give chase, leaving sound of laughter in their trail. At the bicycle parking bay, a lot of students were pointing at them. When Dongjun felt very proud and waved at them like those superstars. Fong Yu shook his head and dragged when Dongjun to class. Not staying at the school dormitory have its pros too. At least they don't need to attend the morning self-revision classes, and they got to wake up 1 hour later. In the classroom, there were a lot of students who were half awake, and some were still yawning sleepily. But when the teacher enters the class, all of them sat up straight and looked like they were paying attention. After class, Fong Yu walked over to Li Na and sat in the seat beside her. Tomorrow is the weekends. After school, let's not go to the cafeteria. Let's go out to eat barbecue and catch a movie at the Cultural Palace. I still have to attend the night self-revision class. There is also no one taking attendance at self-revision classes, and what's wrong with skipping once? That's it. Fong Yu decided for Li Na. When Fong Yu returned to his seat, Li Na's desk mate, a fat chick, said to her, "He asked you out for movies tonight. I really envy you. Why doesn't anyone ask me out? You want to join us? Really? It's settled then. We shall go together tonight." The fat chick happily accepted the invitation. Li Na was stunned. She was just polite, and she never expects the fat chick to accept her invitation. During lunch at the cafeteria, Li Na told Fong Yu that her desk mate wanted to tag along that night. Fong Yu turned and looked at Wen Dongjun with an evil smile. "What? You want me to ride the bicycle with that fat chick? My tires will burst." Fong Yu wrapped his arms around Wen Dongjun's neck and said, "Are we brothers? My bicycle can't sit 2 more people. You have nothing to do at night anyway after you were turned down by that girl from next class. But I also cannot ferry her in my bike. If other students saw me, how can I go after the pretty girl from next class?" Fat Chick's character was not bad. She was good in her studies too and not short with fair complexion. Her facial features. Can't really see clearly as all her facial features were squeezed together. Later I will teach you some tricks. You can definitely ask her out the next time. You sure? Feng Yu felt insulted and replied loudly. When did I lie to you? 1, 2, go. Sit tight. Fat Chick sat on the back seat of Wen Dongjuan's bicycle. He felt that he can't even pedal. He still needs Feng Yu to push him from the back for him to start riding wobbly. Lina sat on the back seat of Feng Yu's bicycle, and Feng Yu, with one leg on the ground and the other on the pedal, stepped down hard on the pedal and moved off with ease. He rode steadily, following behind Wen Dongjun. Lina was wearing a long dress and sat sideways on the back with her arms wrapped around Feng Yu's waist. She lowered her head and smiled sweetly. The four reached the entrance of the Cultural Palace. There was a movie poster for a Hong Kong movie, starring Jackie Chan, Sammo Hung, and Yuan Biao. The Cultural Palace was still better than the cinemas in the towns, where they only screened those boring domestic films. Looking at the time, there was still 10 minutes till the next screening. Feng Yu and the rest decided to watch the movie first before getting barbecue. This move was a comedy action movie. These four really enjoyed it. After the movie, they went to the roadside stalls beside the cinema. 1 RMB for 10 sticks of barbecue meat. Feng Yu ordered 50 sticks without hesitation. He also ordered a lot of other barbecue stuff. Based on Wen Dongjun and Fat Chick's power, Feng Yu might not get to eat anything if he ordered too little food. There were too few varieties for these barbecue sticks, unlike the future. There were no seafood-related food and vegetables. There was only sliced potatoes, boiled peanuts, and soybeans for cold dishes. But it was still enough for Feng Yu and the rest to eat. At the table beside them, a few youngsters were looking at Lina. Lina had worn a long dress, and with her pretty face, these few youngsters started to have some evil thoughts. One of them walked over to Lina with a mug of beer. Hey girl, drink with me. Later I will bring you to a fun place. You heard of billiards before? I have a billiard hall behind me, and there are 2 tables there. Wen Dongjun and Feng Yu stood up immediately and stopped that youngster. Go back and eat your food. If you are not eating, get lost. Stop your drunken rage. Oh, what is this? These 2 kids want to fight with me? Step aside and don't bother me drinking with this pretty girl. If not, I will kill you. The 3 other young punks stood up and walked up to Feng Yu when he finished his sentence. They started to shove Feng Yu. Please don't fight. Don't fight. Lina was almost in tears. These 4 men were not to be a mess with. Feng Yu reached over and pulled Lina behind him. He looked at these 4 punks and said, there are some people whom young punks like you all can provoke. Get lost, and I will pretend nothing had happened. My brother-in-law works with master crutches. To pretend, the attitude was critical. When Feng Yu said those words, his tone and demeanor of the speech startled those youngsters. Author's notes. At that time the bicycle was the primary mean of transport, and China became the bicycle kingdom. Warrior brand shoes and Shanghai brand watches were the most fashionable brands at that time. Cultural Palace was the place to go for movies, and some schools without school halls would also hold their events at Cultural Palace. Translator notes. I was merely translating what was written. I absolutely do not discriminate against fat people and does not condone calling people fat chick. Please support me using this link paypal.me/noobtranslator or Patreon. Feng Yu lifted his left hand and deliberately let those 4 young gangsters see his watch. In that era, someone who can wear a Shanghai brand watch was not ordinary folks. Feng Yu looked like a middle high school student, and yet his dressing tells others that he was rich. Coupled with Feng Yu's calm and relaxed attitude, the young punks looked at each other and hurriedly paid their bills and left. All they wanted was to use being drunk as an excuse to harass some girls. If Feng Yu and the rest feared them, they might do something worse. But if they met someone who was firm and fearless, they would run away. If Feng Yu was telling the truth, his brother-in-law works for master crutches, their legs would be broken. The barbecue stall owner overheard Feng Yu and gave them a bunch of barbecue meat sticks, a few bottles of beer. The stall owner thought to himself, so young and walked the wrong path. I still thought that they were good students. In future, they will also be gangsters. After eating, Feng Yu sent Lina back, while Wen Dongjun sent Fat Chick back. Your brother-in-law is really a gangster? Lina asked. I was just scaring them. You also believe? If I never lied to them, will them leave? Feng Yu laughed. Although he was not some good person, he would never join the triads. He could not even finish spending the money he earned from legal means. Why would he make from illegal businesses? Lying on the bed, Lina tossed and turned, and can't sleep. She knew Feng Yu's family well. His family was farmers. Although they were not poor, they were not very rich either. But why was Feng Yu so rich this year? Drove his own car, eat and wear branded goods, and even had an apartment in the city. Could it be his brother-in-law really from the triads? Then he must not be some good person. Li Na was anxious. Feng Yu's money did not come from legal means. Especially Feng Yu kept giving her gifts, and the gifts were quite expensive too. She decided to not accept his gifts anymore. Sunday afternoon. Feng Yu woke up at 10. He woke up because he was hungry. After eating something in the kitchen, he washed up and left for his company. It was the day to remit money to Kirilenko, and Feng Yu would never delay. He still wants to work with Kirilenko for the long term. Tai Hua Trading does not have an accountant. All the finances were handled by Feng Yu personally. Luckily for him, in this era, there was no need for an accounting certificate to take on this post. If not, Feng Yu would have a big headache. Tai Hua Trading had how much money? How much profits? Only Feng Yu knows the best. Even Li Shiqiang can only estimate, and the rest can only guess. Next year, Feng Yu would be taking out every single cent from the company and invest in the stock market. This would be more convenient for Feng Yu. Another reason was Feng Yu does not trust employing an accountant from outside. There were many instances where the account of the company embezzled with the money and ran off. Furthermore, Tai Hua Trading had so much money in its accounts. Don't say this era, even in his previous life, there will still be people who would take the risk and embezzle money. The technology was not advanced in this era, and there was no need to register names for train tickets, no CCTV on the roads. Once someone escaped and hide in a small mountain village for a year, and in the second year, he can just spend some money to get a real new identity. This way he will be scot-free and live in another city. Don't be mistaken. There were a lot of good policemen around, but there will also be some black sheep, especially in the villages. If the village leader acts as a guarantor, the police station doesn't investigate and claim to be someone's relative. One can just register a new identity and get a new identity card. Feng Yu only trusted Li Shiqiang entirely, but he does not know about accounts and doesn't want to learn. He only told Feng Yu that he entrusted him with the accounts and just want to wait until year-end to get his share. This era, it was very troublesome to remit money. Although this was not the first time Feng Yu remit money, it still took him, with the assistance of the bank staffs, almost an hour to complete the transaction. Why was it that he needed the approval from the bank's manager when he was remitting money to another party? After the bank, he went straight to the used cars refurbishment site. All the refurbished luxury cars looked like stacks of money to Feng Yu, and all the discontents from the bank were dissipated. This period, Wu Jigang and the rest worked very hard. They brought many people over to view the cars. Some of these people bought the cars on the spot, while some thought that it was priced too expensive for a used car. The used car cost hundreds of thousands? They need some time to consider. Feng Yu was too optimistic about the market. Although the population in Bing City was a lot, there were not many rich people around. Those that became rich earlier only look at Mercedes-Benz and BMW. However, the sales for Rolls-Royce and Toyota Crown was not bad. Feng Yu's way of marketing through word of mouth was not very useful. There were not enough stupid people around. As such, he went to the newspaper office and paid for a period of advertisement space. He then employed some flight attendant trainees from the vocational school, wearing flight attendant's uniform, and stood beside the cars. One day one car model, one day one pretty model. This continued for 10 days. 10 different type of cars and 10 beautiful models. These advertisements made those bosses restless. From the stimulation of the advertisements, Feng Yu estimates that they could sell another 20 to 30 vehicles. But Bing City's market was only so big, and his sports cars remained unsold. The road conditions in the era were not as good as the future years, and there was not much expressway around for them to race. The sports cars from the second batch remained unsold. In another 2 months, there will be the last batch of used cars arriving. If Feng Yu can't sell off all these cars within the next 2 months, he might have some cash flow issues. Jigang, you get one man to follow you to the neighboring province's Jilin City tomorrow. Do the same advertisement in the papers there. No problem. You can count on me. When Manager Feng asked them to travel, he would give them a lot of travel allowance. That night, he played video games with Wen Dongjun before going to sleep. When he reached his class on Monday, he noticed it was a bit weird. It seems that the other students were afraid of him. It can't be. He had not got into fights in school, or even got angry. Why did everyone become scared of him? A few students were whispering to each other. When Feng Yu returned from the toilet, he finally understood what happened. There were rumors that his brother-in-law was a gangster and working for the Master Crutches. What? You don't believe? You think about why Feng Yu dared to stand up against Officer Li? Why after that incident, he did not receive any punishment? You all remember when school starts, and we were all discussing our entry grades? Feng Yu was short of 3 points, and Wen Dongjun was short of 30 over points. They are also not Bing City's residents. They are from the farms nearby. How could they enter this school? My dad had met Feng Yu's brother-in-law. He was tall, fit, and fierce-looking. His fist was as big as a clay pot. There were rumors that he was Master Crutch's right-hand man. Also, even the vice principal was scared of Feng Yu's brother-in-law. I think Feng Yu will become the big boss of this school in future. We better stay away from him and don't provoke him. A few days ago, there were over 10 gangsters outside the school calling Feng Yu Big Brother. These few students can really make up stories. They just haven't made up a story of Feng Yu beat up Cripple Wong with one punch and killed Song Laosi with a kick. Feng Yu opened the toilet door and bared his teeth at these students. Those students hurriedly ran for their lives. Feng Yu knew who spread these rumors. It must be Fat Chick. Forget it. No matter what motive she got, at least there will not be anyone dares to provoke him in school, and no one dares to make a move on Li Na. Although his reputation was infamous, Feng Yu doesn't care. That idiot Wen Dongjun still felt very proud, and he even wanted to use Feng Yu's reputation to stop some other students from getting close to the prettiest girl in the next class. Please support me using this link paypal.me/noobtranslator or Patreon. Rumors were like this. The more you want to suppress, the faster it will spread. Although the form teacher does not allow the students to spread rumors, the rumor quickly spread to the whole grade and even the entire school. Even the teachers believed the rumors. The form teacher even spoke to Feng Yu about this. He wanted to clarify with Feng Yu, but Feng Yu just shook his head. Rumors are carried by haters, spread by fools, and accepted by idiots. Feng Yu was lazy to explain. Anyway, these rumors did not bring him much trouble anyway. He can have more time to think about how to earn more money. The advertisements were published in the neighboring province. But that province was considered poor, and the economy was not as good as Longjiang province. The city development was also ranked one of the lowest in China. There were some who had come to look at the cars, but there were few that bought. Just when Feng Yu wanted to go and place an advertisement in Shin City, a Cantonese-speaking boss came to his company. Lei Ho, Mr. Feng is really young and capable. He spoke in Chinese, mixed with Cantonese. Lei Ho means how are you in Cantonese. Lei Ho, Mr. Fu is a Hong Konger. Feng Yu replied. Xia xia. Xia means yes in Cantonese. Mr. Fu, you can speak English? Feng Yu asked again. Of course. Feng Yu nodded and used fluent English. I heard that Mr. Fu is interested in my used car business and wants to buy some cars to resell in the South. Feng Yu really can't stand this type of Cantonese-influenced Chinese. Fu Guangjing was startled. This Feng Yu's English was so fluent? He heard that Feng Yu does business with the Soviets and doesn't need any interpreters. How old is he? He mastered 2 foreign languages. Mr. Fu. Feng Yu raised his voice. Oh, I'm sorry. I want to buy British used luxury cars and sell to the South. How many do you have? About 60 to 70 cars. All of them are about 70 to 80% new. How many units do Mr. Fu want? If the cars are all 70 to 80% new and the price is right, I will buy all. Fu Guangjing smiled. 60 to 70 cars. If he only gets 30,000 to 50,000 profits from one vehicle, the total would also be 2 to 3 million profits. Bases on his estimation, the profits should be more than that. Feng Yu raised his eyebrows. A rich man. But Feng Yu was still a bit suspicious. There were a lot of con men impersonating wealthy Hong Kong businessmen in this era. They will paint a beautiful picture, and when they take the goods or money from you, they will disappear without a trace. But this Mr. Fu's English was not bad. Seems like he had received high education in Hong Kong. His manners also showed that he had a proper upbringing. He seems to be at least 80% trustworthy. Mr. Fu is really willing to spend. But my cars are not cheap. Even if you are buying in bulk, the average price will also be the amount. Feng Yu replied and put out 4 fingers. Fu Guangjing did not agree nor disagree, but asked, then when can you deliver the cars to me? All the cars must be refurbished. Of course, but I am not responsible for the delivery, and you will have to settle the paperwork yourself. If the cars were sold in Bing City, it was effortless to get the registration plates if one has money. Feng Yu had made it very clear. Fu Guangjing hesitated for a moment and nodded. I understand. Then when can you deliver the cars? The fastest will also be 2 months. Now I only have slightly over 10 cars left, and most of them are sports cars. If you want these, I can deliver it to you now. Feng Yu brought Fu Guangjing to the factory to view the cars. Fu Guangjing scrutinized each car. Although he does not know anything about cars, he was observing the facial expressions of the people around. Everyone looks calm. Seems like there were no issues with these cars, and these were not unsold problematic vehicles. But to be safe, Fu Guangjing decided to get a few professional mechanics to inspect these cars. What if the exterior condition is in excellent condition, but the engine is problematic, and after using for 1 year, the car will have to be scrapped? He could offend a lot of people. Mr. Feng, can I come back in 2 days with my men to check on the cars, and I will make a decision after that? Of course, even if you did not mention this, I would also remind you. At least in future, you will not blame me for defective goods. This batch of cars which Kirilenko sold to Fong Yu had not been used for several years. They were at least 50% new. Fong Yu had only changed the seats, tires, and resprayed the exterior. He also employed 2 highly skilled mechanics with high salaries to check on the engines. Guaranteed those who bought the cars will not look for him later and affect his company's reputation. Although this way, the cost would be higher, but his profits will also be high. 1 car, he can make at least 100,000 renminbi and highest, 300,000 renminbi. They both agreed. Next Sunday, Fu Guangjing will bring his men to inspect all the vehicles, and if there are no problems, he will make payments and ship all these cars away. Back at the hotel, Fu Guangjing instructed his men to look for professional mechanics, and at the same time, he asked around for old houses with antiques. Initially, Fu Guangjing had made this trip to look for antiques. The northeast region was the Manchu's base. There must be a lot of good stuff left behind. If he can get his hands on a few pieces and bring back to Hong Kong, he can get 10 times, or even more, turnover if he resells them. He heard that northeast region, primarily Bing City, was very enclosed and people were poor. Poor till they can't afford clothes and cannot afford to eat. But when he arrived here, he noticed that these were not true. There were many factories here and have a strong industrial feel. Although the standard of living for the people here was not high, they were not poor till they can't afford to eat. At least, he saw a lot of cars on the streets. But the number of vehicles can't be compared to the coastal cities. The development here should be considered faster than a lot of inland cities. The thing that surprised him the most was the red Lotus sports car he saw on the streets. This type of sports cars was costly. Even in Hong Kong, only the super-rich second generations will buy. He, himself, just drives a Toyota Crown. Fu Guangjing's family was considered one of the influential family in Hong Kong. His father had a net worth of several billion. His first uncle was also a multi-billionaire. But it was a pity that Fu Guangjing was not the eldest son. He can only get an inheritance of tens of millions in future. His elder brother's company now is worth billions, and it was not from their father's investment. His own company is only worth a few million, and it was still because of his mother helping him. Everyone said that those who had become wealthy in China were very capable and had good connections. A few more years, Hong Kong will be returned to China, and his family feared the changes in policies would affect them. As such, his father had been finding ways to know and build a good relationship with the senior officials. He wants to protect his family's businesses and not be affected by the reunification. Since young, Fu Guangjing was taught by his mother to make friends with those that would be able to help him in future. Isn't this Lotus sports car driver someone like this? If he can be friends with the driver, then his position in his family will rise. But after asking, that sports car driver was a 40-plus man, and this man was not as powerful as he thought he was. He was only a businessman selling animal feed. His car was also a used car and cost less than 500,000 renminbi. Fu Guangjing suddenly thought of a way to earn money. There was someone in Bing City who had the means to get used luxury cars. He had stayed in Guangzhou and Shenzhen for quite some time. 500,000 renminbi for a Lotus. Even if there were 100 cars like this, after shipping over, he can sell them off within a month. If he can get a steady supply of these cars, he can make money fast. He also wanted to prove to his father that his capabilities were not worse than his elder brother. Translator note: I am not sure if Fu Guangjing is a real person, so I googled, and there is a Hong Kong billionaire by the name of Peter Wu Guangqing. The surname is different, but the Chinese characters for Guangxing Gongzheng are the same. Peter Wu Guangqing was the former chairman of Wheelock and Company Limited and the Wharf Holdings Limited, and his net worth is estimated to be $12.6 billion in 2018, according to Forbes. Please support me using this link paypal.me/noobtranslator or Patreon. The sales for the luxury used cars were settled, and Fong Yu was relived. Wu Jigang had been doing market research and noticed that the agricultural machinery and parts produced by the Soviet Union were very popular in China. They were more durable than the Japanese, but more expensive. This was especially so for the harvesters and tractors. They were outstanding, but not sold anywhere. Fong Yu intended to do this business for the next 6 months. Longjiang province is a vast agricultural province. Cultivating all the land by animals was impossible. He was not sure how much it will cost for him to bring in these machines. Fu Guangjing and 2 mechanics arrived at Tai Hua trading on Sunday. Li Shiqiang and one of the mechanics met and was shocked. This mechanic was the one who does the testing of the vehicles for them. Feng Yu did not hide this from Fu Guangjing and told him straight. He still wants to sell the next batch of cars to Fu Guangjing, and he cannot let the latter to feel that he was deceiving him. Fu Guangjing smiled and said that it was okay. He knew that this mechanic was doing the testing for Tai Hua Trading, and he deliberately brought him along to see if Tai Hua Trading will be in cahoots with the mechanic to cheat him. But since Feng Yu had made it clear to him, that means that Feng Yu had no plans to deceive him. This increases the position of Tai Hua Trading in his heart. The testing went smoothly. All vehicles were tested in the afternoon. The testing mainly focuses on the engine, chassis, brakes, and accelerator. The rest doesn't matter much. Fu Guangjing was satisfied with the test results. He wanted all 18 vehicles. After deducting the transportation cost, he can still get a profit of more than 50,000 renminbi per vehicle. If he manages well, he might get even more. All of them returned to Tai Hua Trading's warehouse to sign a contract prepared by Feng Yu. Fu Guangjing read the contract carefully and signed it. Tomorrow, after the money was credited to Tai Hua Trading, Fu Guangjing will collect the cars. He had already made the arrangements for the transportation, and all the paperwork were completed in 1 hour. Keeping his copy of the contract, Feng Yu said politely, "Mr. Fu, let's have some tea before leaving." Feng Yu never expected Fu Guangjing to accept his invitation readily, and even said that he was thirsty from earlier on. Feng Yu instructed his staff to prepare the tea and at the same time apologize for the poor hospitality. Having a company with all men was not good. No one was meticulous enough to prepare tea for customers and guests. But this was all Feng Yu's fault. He had taught his staff to behave this way. A successful company must be arrogant. But Feng Yu will never admit that this was taught by him. Fu Guangjing lifts the teacup, took a sip of the green tea, and frowned. This tea was ordinary and not some good tea. He does not want to drink, but he was embarrassed to put down the teacup after taking a slip. So, he just held on to the cup in his hands. He looked around and noticed the 3-legged incense burner in the corner. He casually said to Feng Yu, "Why did you place that thing in your office? It doesn't match your simple office decor." Feng Yu looked over at the incense burner which he bought for 300,000 renminbi from Cripple Wang. He had wanted to use it as a flower pot, but his office was in a warehouse, and there was no sunlight. In the end, he forgot about it. "Oh, that incense burner? After buying it from a friend, I got nowhere to place it, so I just leave it in that corner." Bought from a friend? Maybe he knows that it is an antique? Then it won't be nice if I ask him for it. But why was it placed at that corner? Could it be a fake? Fu Guangjing had this problem, or should it be those who traded in antiques all had this problem? If an antique was placed in front of them, they can't sleep if they can't hold the antique in their hands and scrutinize it. Incense burner? I like incense burner and even have a collection. Can I take a closer look at that incense burner? Some people collect incense burner as a hobby. Feng Yu looked at Fu Guangjing strangely. This hobby was quite weird and doesn't sound like some sort of religion. "Sure. Since you like it, just take a closer look." Feng Yu nonchalantly picked up the incense burner and roughly placed it on the table. Although the ashes were cleared, the incense burner was not cleaned. An ash cloud floated up from the impact. Feng Yu stepped 2 steps back and waved his hands in front of him. Fu Guangjing and moved his chair back and placed the teacup on the table. A layer of ash dropped onto the tea, and it can't drink anymore. But Fu Guangjing's eyes did not leave the incense burner. "Huh?" Feng Yu looked at Fu Guangjing curiously. Why did he take out a pair of white gloves and put it on? Why was it so familiar? Feng Yu suddenly remembered a television program he watched in his previous life. The program was Appraising Treasures, and the experts in the program wore white gloves when appraising antiques. Looking at Fu Guangjing carefully wiping the dust off the surface of the incense burner, the things he said earlier and his expression, Feng Yu had a bold guess. This Fu Guangjing had a bit of OCD. If it were a clean incense burner, he would not wear his gloves. But this incense burner was too dirty. He did not want to dirty his hands, so he put on his gloves. He thought his acting was not bad. collecting incense burners. This reason was impressive. People were collecting all sorts of weird stuff in the world, and this Feng Yu should not suspect anything. Feng Yu apparently does not think much of this incense burner, as he had left it in a corner. It could be he treated it as a regular incense burner, or he thought it was a fake. Fu Guangjing saw the shape of the incense burner, and it looked like an Xuanda burner. There was only about 3,000 Xuanda burner produced during the Ming dynasty. Later, many were damaged or went missing. The prices for these burners became more and more expensive. If this burner were real, it would worth a lot of money. Fu Guangjing only wanted to wipe the burner clean to look at the material and color, so he can have a rough estimation. Then he would offer a low price to buy it. If the negotiation went smoothly, Feng Yu should be willing to sell it to him. But he did not expect that by putting on a pair of white gloves, Feng Yu suspect that burner is an antique. Fu Guangjing shook his head and casually placed the burner back on the table. But there was only a faint sound because he was cautious with it. He had examined the burner. Although it was not a thorough examination, there was a 50% chance of it being a real Xuanda burner and 50% to be an imitation. But it doesn't matter if it was real or fake. Even if it was an imitation, it was worth a lot of money too. If he met someone who doesn't know much about antiques, he could still sell it to him at the price of an authentic burner. I had never seen this type of incense burner. Is Mr. Feng willing to sell it to me? Fu Guangjing said and placed a 100 Hong Kong dollars note on the table. Feng Yu can now be sure that this burner was indeed an antique. If not, why would Fu Guangjing want such a dirty incense burner? Feng Yu smiled and said, Mr. Fu is joking with me? I had spent a few 100,000 RMB to buy this burner from a friend, and you are offering me 100 Hong Kong dollars. The smile on Fu Guangjing's face froze. A few 100,000 RMB? This Feng Yu knows that this burner is an Xuanda burner. Impossible. Who would place something that is worth a few 100,000 RMB in a corner? He must be bluffing. Did I hear wrongly? A few 100,000? This should only worth a few dozen RMB the most. Really? A few dozen RMB apiece? Why not Mr. Fu sells it to me? I will buy whatever you have. Let's be truthful. This burner is an antique, and you should have already known about it. The author notes, there were some who said that there was 3,000 Xuanda incense burner produced, and some said 5,000. Also, some of those were imitation from the Qing dynasty. Even the experts were not sure. There were also some who said there were less than 100 real, authentic Xuanda burners left. However, let's not dwell on it. Feng Yu himself was not sure what antique was this incense burner, but he was sure that this is indeed an antique. He wanted to know which dynasty was it from and how much was it worth. Fu Guangjing heard Feng Yu and laughed embarrassedly. Ha! Ha! Mr. Feng, stop joking. Since you know about it, why did you still place it in that corner? Feng Yu rolled his eyes and said, I didn't have time to keep it. You see, I didn't even have the time to clean it up properly. A history professor once told me it was worth 1 million, but another expert told me that this was worth 2 million. I am not so sure how much is this worth. How much is this type of incense burner selling for in Hong Kong? What Fu Guangjing said earlier had indirectly admitted this burner was worth at least a few 100,000. Feng Yu wanted to know how much Fu Guangjing was willing to offer. If the price is right, he might just sell it to him now. Feng Yu does not have the hobby of collecting antiques. The antiques in his previous life were so expensive was because the market was manipulated by some people. Some collectors and auctioneers used the history, culture, economy to raise the prices of the antiques, and were still well received by many. There were some who were not interested in collecting antiques, but collected antiques for economic gains. Using their company's name, they auctioned back the antiques and declare as office supplies to avoid tax. The value of office supplies after 5 years of depreciation would become zero. After the value of the office supplies became zero on the company's books, these antiques can go into their own pockets. Also, these 5 years, the value of these antiques would have appreciated. This way, a significant amount of taxes was avoided and was still a stable investment. When in need of money, one can use these antiques as collaterals and obtain loans from the banks. In the future years, many used this method and finally, the government came out with a policy to regulate the antique market, but there were still many loopholes. Feng Yu had no intention of entering the antique market. He knew nothing about antiques. In his previous life, he heard lots of stories of people getting cheated when buying antiques. Furthermore, if he just invests in the financial market, he is guaranteed to earn more than investing in antiques. Fu Guangjing put on his gloves again and took out a small brush and magnifying glass from his bag. He brought these along with him wherever he goes. He just did not take them out earlier. After Fu Guangjing cleaned the burner, this three-legged incense burner restored its former radiance. Fu Guangjing was staring and caressing the burner as if the burner was his lover's body. 1 million. 1 million Hong Kong dollars. Mr. Fong, are you willing to sell it to me? This thing was worth 1 million? And it's in Hong Kong dollars? The Hong Kong dollars was valued higher than RMB. This price was much higher than Fong Yu's expectations. Initially, he thought that as long as he could get back the few $100,000 he paid to Cripple Wong, it was enough. But now, it seems like he could get a significant profit too. Cripple Wong must be unaware that this incense burner was a valuable antique. If he had known about this, he would have sent his men to get back the burner long time ago. Fong Yu did not expect that small gesture would give him a significant profit. Mr. Fu, do you think I would sell it? Fong Yu smiled and looked at Fu Guangjing. Fong Yu would not sell this burner unless Fu Guangjing offered 2 million. At this time next year, Fong Yu can still use this burner as collateral to get a loan from the bank. He could get at least a 5 million loan, and in 1 year's time, he can turn the 5 million into more than 20 million. If he gets 1 million now, he can't turn it into 5 million in 5 years. Fu Guangjing had a disappointed look on his face. It seems like Fong Yu wants to keep it for his own collection. If he were to offer a higher price, he might not get any profits. Mr. Fong also likes to collect antiques. What treasures are in your collection? Let me take a look. Fu Guangjing said while taking off his gloves and wiping his hands with a handkerchief. Fong Yu waved his hands. I just started and do not many collections. You seem to be an expert in antiques. You must have collected a lot of good stuff. What just started collecting? He didn't even start. But he was curious about the antique trade. At least he felt that antiques were better than art pieces. In his previous life, art pieces were deliberately traded at high prices to gain profits, and some were used for money laundering. You can bring a worthless painting to an auction house for auction. Then you give your money to another party, and this party will use your money to buy your worthless painting at a high price. This way, your money would come from a legitimate source. There are also a few idiots who blindly follow trends and bought art pieces at high prices. In the end, they were not able to sell off these art pieces, and they have to swallow the bitter pill. When Fong Yu said that he wants to look at Fu Guangjing's collection, Fu Guangjing had a proud look on his face. Although he was not considered a collector and he only does this for profits, but he had still made a hefty amount this year. This trip to Bing City, he had visited a few old houses nearby and bought a few pieces of antiques. At his hotel room, Fu Guangjing showed Fong Yu his collection from this trip. Snuff bottles, porcelains, seals, jade pendants, hairpins, ancient books. Fong Yu looked at these items for a while and felt that although these things were pretty, he will definitely not pay high prices for them. Looking at Fong Yu's uninterested look, Fu Guangjing said sourly, "These items can't be compared to your Schwanda burner. That burner of yours is an authentic Schwanda burner. The value will definitely appreciate by several folds in 2 years' time. But I can still get at least double profits from these items when I get back to Hong Kong. There are so many people collecting antiques in Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, not many. But there are many in Southeast Asia." Fong Yu finally understood. Hong Kong in this era was still a British colony and the financial hub of Asia. There were more than 100 Chinese billionaires from Southeast Asia alone. These people are the ones who can push the prices up several times. Mr. Fong, are you interested in joining me in this business? This was Fu Guangjing's really objective. He was short of capital and can't increase his operations. Fong Yu had the funds and also had connections with the Soviets. If he is able to get some oil paintings or something from Europe, it will definitely be profitable. Sorry, I am not interested in this trade. I bought that incense burner was to help a friend with his financial woes. Mr. Fu, are you from Hong Kong's Fu family? Fong Yu suddenly asked. You know about the Fu family? Mr. Fong went to Hong Kong before. Fu Guangjing looked at Fong Yu curiously. Someone from the most northern province in China actually knew about Hong Kong's Fu family? How did he know about this? I heard from a friend. The Fu family is a big family in Hong Kong. Every member of the family are elites in Hong Kong's upper society. Which Rome generation is your father? Fu Guangjing was shocked. Fong Yu even know about his family's seniority. This meant that Fong Yu had already found out his background. My father is Fu Rongjin. Fong Yu thought for a while. He had no impression of Fu Rongjin. The most famous from Fu family's Rome generation was comparable to Superman Lee. But that person is definitely not Fu Rongjin. Fong Yu showed a shocked expression, and this made Fu Guangjing felt proud. Although he was not his father's favorite, his father had never stopped him from using his name when doing business. He wanted to make use of this used car business to prove himself to his father. Translator notes: traditional Chinese families have this practice of using one same character for the names of the same generation. E.g., Singapore's Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong and his brother Lee Hsien Yang. Famous Hong Kong actors Michael Hui, Ricky Hui, and Sam Hui had the same character in their names. Superman Lee is the nickname for one of Asia's most influential entrepreneurs, Li Ka-shing. He is the 23rd wealthiest man in the world as of January 2018, taken from Wikipedia. Tai Hua Trading's account had almost 10 million renminbi and does not include Kirilenko's payment of 1 million rubles. The next batch of used cars will arrive in November. Fong Yu decided to bring in a bunch of agricultural machinery from the Soviet Union first. The autumn harvest had started, and this was the time when farming machines got damaged. If he imported a batch of these machines, or even spare parts now, he would not worry about the sales. The sales for the agricultural machinery and spare parts were the highest just before and after the spring farming and autumn harvest. Fong Yu organized a list of the types and quantity of popular farming machines and tools and telegrammed the list to Kirilenko. He wanted Kirilenko to give him a quote. The next day, Li Shiqiang received a telegram from the post office. Kirilenko had sent over a list of prices for different types of farming machines and parts. Fong Yu made some calculations. After deducting Kirilenko's transportation fees, taxes, and the cost, the profits were not high. There were even no profits for some products. Those that were in this trade will still bring in these products, even if they were making a loss. This was because they wanted to have a wide range of products. But Feng Yu was different. He does not intend to do this business for long. He only wanted to make some money in this year. Brotherly, send these to Brother Qi and ask him to send out these products as soon as possible. Also, ask Ji Gang and the rest to make sales call and get the market prices for tractors and harvesters. We will be selling a batch of those early next year. Okay, leave these to me. It's late. Shouldn't you be in bed? Feng Yu looked at Li Shiqiang and his sister. Their wedding date was confirmed to be on next Lunar New Year. Now, they were already living together. When they bought this apartment, Feng Yu wanted to buy a few more units, but his parents didn't approve. Now, there were not enough rooms, and his sister had to live with Li Shiqiang. How can a young couple living together not do some naughty things? Feng Yu was not very sure previously, but today, Li Shiqiang was asking Feng Yu to go and sleep. Does this still need any explanations? Feng Yu looked at Li Shiqiang and seriously said, Brother Li, if my sister got pregnant before you two were married, my father might not beat my sister, but will definitely bring the shotgun along for a talk with you. Cough. What are you saying? Hurry and go to bed. Kirilenko was quick to send out the shipment. In the Soviet Union, there were stockpiles of these farming machinery and parts. Kirilenko was able to procure the items on the list quickly and ship to Feng Yu. Kirilenko was really enjoying his life during this period. Good wine and women, and his wealth was increasing every day. His reputation among the second generations and the business circle rose too. This was because of the popular Chinese products in his hands. However, this business was a partnership, and he was only one of the shareholders. If only he owns this business himself. But his partners had strong backgrounds, and he can't just ditch them and venture on his own. I am here first. I should load first. Bullshit. I was waiting here since last night. I should be first. Get lost. I am the first to sign the contract, so I should be first. A few farming machinery dealers were crowding around the freight station. They wanted to be the first to load the goods onto their vehicles. The earlier they load, the earlier they could occupy the market. They did not segregate the market, and they planned to sell these products in another person's territory. There were even some from the same city. The one that was faster would earn more money. Stop shouting. What did we tell you when you signed the contract? Those who pay first will get to load first. Those who pay later will load later. Mr. Su, why are you rushing? Your truck is not here yet. Looking at these people arguing, Li Shiqiang had no choice but to step up and maintain order. Luckily, Tai Hua Trading was notorious and different from other companies. From the boss to the staffs, everyone was arrogant. These people can afford to be arrogant because of the popular products they were selling, and everyone was rushing to buy from them. Good quality farming machinery from the Soviet Union. Even the parts were more durable and better than domestically produced. After Li Shiqiang shouted at them, these people loaded their trucks according to their time of payments. The most frustrated of them all was Mr. Su. He was the second to make payments. but he could not find any trucks. When there was no need for trucks, you can see these trucks everywhere. But when there was a need for trucks, these trucks were nowhere to be seen. When the third person started loading, his truck had not arrived yet. No choice. The truck he hired had just returned from other places and had not finished unloading at other sites. After school, Feng Yu went to the freight station and saw the loading was almost completed. "Brotherly, what's the matter?" Li Shiqiang said excitedly. "Xiao Yu, we had sold everything. These goods were so popular. The money was deposited into the company's account. More than 4 million renminbi." Li Shiqiang covered his mouth and whispered the last sentence to Feng Yu. The prices for this batch of goods were set by Feng Yu, but Li Shiqiang was the one who signed the contracts and collected the payments. Feng Yu only knew that Li Shiqiang was very busy yesterday and returned home quite late. He didn't have the time to ask him yesterday. He was surprised that everything was sold when he came to the freight station. These lads were really something. They did not skive even when they were out making sales calls. Must give them more rewards this month and let them know that their hard work was not for nothing. This way, they will work even harder for the company. Later, Feng Yu found out that his staffs had got hold of a list of machinery dealers from the motor factory. They even bought dealer lists from other factories within and outside of Bing City. They visited these dealers based on the list, and this way, saved them a lot of time. There were still a lot of dealers they had not visited. If they had visited everyone on the lists, there would not be enough goods for everyone. In this era, customers had the impression that imported goods were better, and if the products were imported from the Soviet Union, it will even be better. The Soviet Union was a big industrial country, and China produced tractors. Farming machines were imitated from the Soviet Union. These Soviet Union products were better than domestic ones, and the prices were still low. How can these dealers miss out such good deals? Feng Yu had not expected these goods to be so popular. It seems that he was too conservative when he ordered only 3 million renminbi worth of products. He immediately called Kirilenko and asked him to ship another batch of products over quickly. There were 30% profits to make. Kirilenko answered Feng Yu's call and smiled. "I knew that those goods were not enough. Didn't you notice the prices I quoted you? You can't even get these prices in the Soviet Union. I had already prepared 1 million rubles worth of goods for you. Rest assured, this batch will definitely arrive at Bing City within 1 week." These goods were stockpiled in some factories and unable to sell. Those factories' leaders were still worried and wondering what to do with those goods. Kirilenko was also shamelessly. He approached these factories' leaders and told them that the Soviet army wants to support their allies, China. He even got a military document with a red seal. In the end, he offered some Chinese products in exchange and got these goods at a meager price. In total, he only spent less than 300,000 rubles for everything. These monies were all Kirilenko's. He had left his partners out of this deal. He was the one who had built this sales channel. He was the one who had worked the most and should be getting more money. "Director, oh no. What are you yelling for? Can't you keep it down?" Bing City's machinery factory director Li Mingde put down his newspaper and angrily looked at his sales department head, Wang Aigua. "Director, there is bad news." "What bad news?" "The Japanese are attacking us again." Li Mingde replied jokingly. But Wang Aigua did not laugh at his joke. Li Mingde picked up the teacup and slowly savored the tea. This tea leaf was given to him, the deputy chief of the industrial department. Last month, because of the autumn harvest, the machinery factory's sales were the highest in history. Because of this, Li Mingde was commented by the deputy mayor. If he is lucky, he might be transferred to the industrial department to be a leader. "No, Director Li, didn't you instructed us to manufacture more agricultural tools and machines for the National Day?" "Yes. What's wrong?" "During the meeting yesterday, it was mentioned that our production had increased further. Are you afraid that we do not have enough goods?" "It's not about having not enough goods. It's about unable to sell off the goods," Wang Aigua replied. "What? Unable to sell off the goods? How can this be? Every year, this period is our peak period. How can our goods be unsold?" Li Mingde was surprised. He had asked the workers to work overtime to increase production. If these machines were unsold, he might be unable to pay the production workers' salaries, as all the factory's cash were used to produce these machines. He had promised the deputy mayor that the sales would surpass 10 million renminbi as a National Day gift. "I had contacted those dealers, and most of them do not need any more agricultural machines. Only a few of them express interest in ordering from us, but they wanted us to lower our prices. They do not have a shortage of goods." "Impossible. There was an increase in the number of farms this year, and every city's government were following the provincial government's instruction to promote the use of machinery in farming. How can they have no shortages in these machines? I had asked around, and I heard that there was a batch of Soviet Union-produced farming machines in the market. Those dealers had imported those machines, and those who can't get their hands on those machines were still waiting. All these dealers refused to order from us. Soviet-made machines? The prices should be much higher than us. Could it be expensive machines sells better? Li Mingde was confused. Things should work this way. Director, these Soviet machines were not more expensive than our machines. They were a lot cheaper than us. Their retail prices were almost on par with our cost prices. Retail prices almost on par with our cost prices? Impossible. It's real. If not, why would those dealers want us to lower our prices? Also, Soviet farming machines were imported and more durable. Now no one is buying our machines. Did you find out where did these dealers got those machines from? Yes. It is a private company by the name of Tai Hua Trading Company. It was also this company which introduced the wind and rain electric fans last summer. Okay, I know. You go back to work first. You must think of a way to sell off this batch of farming machines before National Day. Li Mingde waited till Wang Igua left the room and called the deputy director who was in charge of the production to his office. He asked the deputy director to inform the production line to temporarily stop working, citing the workers needed a few days of rest after working so hard for 1 month. After Li Mingde finished giving out his instructions, he asked his secretary to notify his driver. He needs to go to the industrial department and complain to the leaders there about Tai Hua Trading for disturbing the market. Those dealers rushed to Tai Hua Trading after they received news of them importing a new batch of farming machines from the Soviet Union. This time, they were smart. They prepared cash as they wanted to be the first one to load their trucks. They had set the retail prices for the last batch of machines and tools from the Soviet Union was 10% above the cost price. The quality was better, more durable, and these were imported goods. The prices were also lower than Bing City's machinery factory. These goods were sold out within a week. Farmers usually stayed near to each other and had a competitive mindset. If one of them bought a cheap farming machine or tool, the news would spread fast, and the rest will follow suit as they don't want to lose out to others. For instance, Fong Yu's father borrowed money to purchase a 55 tractor after he saw someone using it. A lot of people came after hearing the news of cheap and durable imported farming machines. But they were disappointed when they heard that the machines were sold out. The dealers were anxious too. Who doesn't want more of these popular goods? The more they sell, the more they will profit. As such, they called up Tai Hua Trading every day asking if there were any more goods and when will the next batch arrive. When these dealers arrived, they soon discovered that there were more people compared to the last time. They knew each other, and when they saw an unfamiliar face, they knew that Tai Hua Trading had reached out to more regions. Will there be enough goods for them? This batch of machines and tools was not enough for these people. Everyone wanted to purchase more and were not afraid of keeping extra. They knew that these goods will be sold during next spring. Most importantly, these machines were extremely popular. These Soviet Union-produced machines were selling better than the ones sold by any of the state-owned factories in Longjiang province or any other provinces. Feng Yu had not thought of this. He felt that the autumn harvest was coming to an end, and it will be until next spring before anyone wants to buy farming machines. He did not know that these dealers were willing to stock up on these machines and were afraid that there will not be any cheap Soviet Union-produced farming machines. These people also ordered seeders, rotary tiller, sprinkler, and many other machines which were not used during autumn harvest. Feng Yu had imported thresher, harvester, and the spare parts for these big machinery. His thinking was too constricted. As long as the price was low, no matter what type of machine, these dealers will also want it. What's there to wait? Call and order more. Kirilenko was also very surprised. He knew that the prices he gave Feng Yu were low and these machines should be popular. But he did not expect these machines were so popular. He had underestimated the agricultural machinery demand in China. Once again, Kirilenko forged some documents and purchased large quantities of machinery from those factories. This time, the number and varieties were more significant and worth almost 4 million rubles. If it wasn't for the difficulties in transportation, Feng Yu still wanted to bring in a batch of tractors. Many dealers wished to order tractors. These few days, Wu Jigang and the rest were very busy. They were traveling all over the province, visiting dealers and promoting their Soviet agricultural machines. After they had liaised with all the dealers in the province, they started to contact Lin province. Anyway, Lin province was located not far away, and there was not much difference for the transportation. Feng Yu had told them that they will be surprised by their bonus this month. If you want a horse to run, the horse must be fed well first. Under the motivation of the upcoming bonus, these lads were working harder. The reputation of Tai Hua trading grew with the dealers in the agricultural machinery market, and more orders were coming in. But there was a threat waiting for them behind all these. Feng Yu, can you go out for a while? Your family is looking for you. Feng Yu was in the middle of class when someone knocked on the door. The teacher opened the door, had a few words with the one standing outside, and called Feng Yu. Brotherly, what happened? Feng Yu had an uneasy feeling. If it were nothing extraordinary, Li Shiqiang would not look for him in school. What he worried most was something terrible happened to his family. Xiao Yu, our company was suspended. What? The company was suspended. Who ordered this suspension, and for what reason? Feng Yu was shocked. The company can close, but if the company was suspended, the company's account would be frozen. If he had no money, he would miss the great opportunity next year. That opportunity will be more profitable than running the company. The city's anti-smuggling team of the police. They claim that we are smuggling. Help me apply the day off from school, and we will go to the anti-smuggling team. You two are from Tai Hua Trading? Where is the registered owner, and why did you bring a student here? Because of the rush, Feng Yu was still in his third high school's uniform. The owner is my father, and he had authorized me to handle all matters regarding the company. The officer looked curiously at Feng Yu. There must be something wrong with the owner of the company. Why did he send a student over? Did he think that he was able to escape punishment by sending a student over? Now was only gathering facts, and later, the owner would still have to go to jail. Did the owner think that this kid would go to jail in his place? You can handle this. What do you know? I am talking to you. Ask the owner to come over now. If not, it will be more serious. The officer pointed at Li Shiqiang and shouted arrogantly. You said that we were smuggling. Where's the proof? We have legal documents for all our products. How can we be smuggling? Feng Yu asked loudly. What are you shouting for? Where do you think this is? This is the anti-smuggling office. I will arrest you if you raise your voice again and even make your school expel you. Feng Yu's shouting attracted the captain. What is happening? Xiaosu, who are these two people? Captain Zheng, these two are from Tai Hua Trading. They want to create trouble. The officer accused Feng Yu and Li Shiqiang in front of them. We are not creating trouble, but here to understand what's happening. Our company was accused of smuggling goods, and can't we come over and find out what actually happened? Feng Yu turned and spoke to Captain Zheng. Where did you get those Soviet Union-produced agricultural machines imported by your company? We bought them. You bought them? If those were bought through legal means, why are they so cheap? Where's the contract? Where's the import documents? Captain Zheng sneered. These imported machines were of good quality and priced lower than domestic-produced machines. These can't be imported legally. Furthermore, he was instructed by Deputy Mayor Su's secretary to take care of this Tai Hua company. Of course, he had to act fast and settle this properly. We have the contract and importation documents. You can send someone to accompany us back to the company to retrieve it. There was a seal on the main door of the company, and it was against the law to remove the seal themselves. You dare to order me? No contract and no documents mean that you are smuggling. No matter what Feng Yu said, this Captain Zheng did not listen. In the end, he got his men to throw the two of them out of his office. What should we do now, Xiao Yu? Should I think of a way to ask that Captain Zheng out and give him some gifts? Li Shiqiang said worryingly. Smuggling was considered a serious crime. Feng Yu waved his hands and said no. From his attitude just now, he does not want money. If he wanted money from us, he can just bring his men to our office for a talk. He does not need to suspend and seal our company. There must be someone behind all these. Let's go to the office of foreign trade. This period, Feng Yu did not forget to keep in touch with Bing City's future mayor. He often drops by his office to report his progress or thank the support of the office of foreign trade. This time, he might need the help of Li Ruiqiang. If Feng Yu could retrieve the documents, he will be able to prove his company's innocent. Li Ruiqiang sat on the sofa and listened to Feng Yu. When Feng Yu finished, he asked, Can you explain to me why the machines imported by your company so cheap? The Soviet Union's economy is not doing well now, and there is a lack of development in their agricultural sector. This affected the sales of these agricultural machines. Our Soviet partners sold these machines to us at a low price, and we, in turn, sell these machines to the dealers at a low price. 2. We are using the cost leadership strategy. What are you saying? The Soviet Union's economy is not doing well. Where did you hear it from? Even if they lacked in the agricultural development, why can't they export those machines to other countries? Why should they sell those machines to you at such low prices? Zhang Ruiqiang doesn't believe what Feng Yu had just said. The Soviet Union's economy is currently going downhill. It is because they had used all their budget on their military. My partner's father is a high-ranking officer in the Soviet army. We had worked together for a long time, and the products our company exported was to his company. He wanted to sell these farming machines. Of course, he would look for me first. The prices are low was because he had got them cheap. Zhang Ruiqiang did not pay attention to the last few sentences. He was thinking about what Feng Yu said about the decline of Soviet Union's economy. What Feng Yu said made sense to him. He was only curious about why the farming machines were so cheap. Even if Feng Yu did not ask him for help, he would also help him. His office had just given Tai Hua Trading Company an award, and now this company was being suspended for smuggling? This was like a slap to the Office of Foreign Trade's face. Zhang Ruiqiang also liked Feng Yu. Although Feng Yu was still young and attending high school, he was competent and knows how to build good relationships. Just the autumn festival 2 days ago, Tai Hua Trading had given his department a lot of festive gifts, and his men can enjoy an enjoyable holiday. Sometimes, he felt that Feng Yu was too matured for his age. He felt like a teenager with an old man's soul. Zhang Ruiqiang picked up the phone in front of Feng Yu and made a call to his friend in the city government to ask him to find out what happened to Tai Hua Trading. After a while, the other party called back and told him that he had found out from the anti-smuggling team that it was the instructions from the Deputy Mayor Su. He can't help much. He knew Deputy Mayor Su. They were not close and not considered friends. He made a call to the Deputy Mayor and found out that he had ordered his men to investigate Tai Hua Trading because they were selling those machines cheaply. The machines could be obtained through illegal means. Deputy Mayor Su oversaw industrial development, and Zhang Ruiqiang knew that this was about local protectionism. The local factory must have complained to the Deputy Mayor. Although the Deputy Mayor did not lift the suspension, he still agreed to allow Tai Hua Trading staff to retrieve the documents from their office because of Zhang Ruiqiang. With the papers, Feng Yu would be able to prove that he did not smuggle in the machines. But later, Deputy Mayor Su also mentioned that even if Tai Hua Trading was proved to import those machines illegally, they were not allowed to sell those machines so cheaply. Translator notes. Michael Porter stated in his book about the 3 approaches to business strategies. He called these strategies generic strategies, which consists of cost leadership, differentiation, and focus strategies. Management students should be familiar with these. Fortunately for Feng Yu, he had all the paperwork for those imported farming machines. He submitted those documents to the anti-smuggling team, and the suspension was lifted. Tai Hua Trading Company's bank account was also unfrozen. But Feng Yu was unhappy. He was warned by the officials from the city government. If he carries on importing cheap machinery from the Soviet Union and follow their instructions to increase the selling price, other departments will step in and suspend his company again. But this importation business had almost 30% profits, and he also had an established sales distribution network. Feng Yu was reluctant to give these up. Feng Yu sighed. This was all because he does not have enough authority. If he had a few billion RMB now, the city deputy mayor and even the provincial deputy mayor would dare to create trouble for him. Previously, Song Xiaofeng dared to create trouble for Feng Yu was because Tai Hua Trading was still a small company. If Tai Hua Trading was the biggest company in Bing City, and Feng Yu's assets was a few times more than Song Laosi, Song Xiaofeng would not dare to touch Feng Yu. When one's assets reached a certain level, it can be converted into authority and power. Zhang Ruiqiang had made it very clear to Feng Yu. If he were to carry on importing those farming machines, he must talk to Bing City's machinery factory. The next day, Feng Yu applied another day off from school and went to Bing City's machinery factory with Li Shiqiang to look for Li Mingda. You two are from Tai Hua Trading? Don't think that the Foreign Trade Office's Deputy Chief Zhang Ruiqiang had helped you, and you will be saved. All matters relating to Bing City would still be referred to the city government. Li Mingda slowly drank his tea. He had sent his men to the dealers in the province and warned them. There will not be any more machines from the Soviet Union, and if they dare to order machines from Tai Hua Trading, he will force Tai Hua Trading to shut down. Those dealers also received news that Tai Hua Trading was suspended. Although the suspension was lifted within a short time, Tai Hua Trading told them that the sales of the Soviet farming machines will be discontinued. Director Li, you think we are here to apologize? Feng Yu crossed his legs and said, when you meet a bully, you must never give in. If you give in, the bully will think that you fear him, and he will be more arrogant. Li Mingda's face changed. What's the meaning of this? Not here to apologize? Then he is here to gloat? Humph. Machinery Factory had the backing of the city government. A measly foreign trade office cannot be compared. If that is so, then you two are here to create trouble? I want to see what can a small company like Tai Hua Trading can do. Li Shiqiang anxiously looked at Feng Yu. Feng Yu did not tell him that they were here to find trouble. They had just met and started arguing. Does that mean that they will not import any more farming machines from the Soviet Union? Even if they were not doing this business in future, it was not wise to offend Li Mingda. Li Mingda was still considered a government official and had a good relationship with the city government. He had a lot of ways to shut down their company. Suddenly, Feng Yu laughed and said, Director Li had misunderstood me. I am not here to apologize nor create trouble. I am here to ask Director Li if your factory wants Soviet Union's advanced machinery facilities. Li Shiqiang was shocked. How did the conversation turn into this? Li Mingda sat up straight. The Soviet Union does not sell their advanced machinery facilities to China. This Feng Yu was able to get his hands on these facilities. What do you mean? If I can import advanced machinery from the Soviet Union, including the technology to produce agricultural machines and equipment, how much is your factory willing to offer? The recession had begun in the Soviet Union. Previously, the Soviet Union relied on the exportation of gold, oil, and military products to maintain their economic growth. But now, there were a lot of smuggling activities for these products. The government, high-ranking military officers, and their families were involved in these smuggling activities. They did this to pass their wealth to their later generations. Kirilenko and his business partners were the typical second generation of high-ranking military officers. Their freight trains belonged to the Soviet Union military, and they were using it for their own purposes. Also, they do not need to pay any tax as they did business in the name of the military. From 1985 onwards, the agricultural industry, especially the food production, was on a decline. This led to the Soviet Union's agricultural machinery sales falling year after year. They used to export to Europe, but now, that market was taken away by Germany and France. Germany had occupied more than half of Europe's market share. If the Soviet Union wants to export farming machinery to Europe, they would have to reduce their prices. But lowering prices meant making a loss and acknowledging they were losing out to the Germans and French. What can the Soviets do? They can only grit their teeth and hang on. On the next year onwards, there will be more factories stopping their productions. In 1990, the Soviet Union's economy got worse and collapsed. It was then when the disintegration of the Soviet Union officially began. When Feng Yu ordered the agricultural machines from Kirilenko a few days ago, he had asked Kirilenko about these production facilities. If Feng Yu only imported these machines, he was the only that gained from it. But if he brings in the production technologies and advanced production lines, the whole China will benefit. Feng Yu was not a noble person, but if there was an opportunity for him to earn money and at the same time, do something for his country's economy, why not? Furthermore, Feng Yu also got the chance to get close to the city government and pave the way for his company's development. Li Shiqiang only remembered Feng Yu had a long talk with Li Mingda. At first, there was a lot of tension between the both. But later, the tensions were gone, and Li Mingda even showed Feng Yu to the door personally and shook his hands enthusiastically. Back at the office, all the staffs were playing poker leisurely. They were bored. When they saw Feng Yu entering, they quickly kept the cards. Everything is fine now. Go back and rest for a few days and come back after the National Day holidays. Brotherly, give each of them 500 renminbi as their bonus. Also give out another 2,000 renminbi as commission, according to their contacted dealers' sales. Feng Yu was in a good mood, and he decided to be generous for once. He doubled the bonus and rewards. He wanted these lads to be loyal to him. These people were trained by him personally, and he doesn't want them to leave. Everyone cheered. They were called back to the company yesterday when the company was suspended in the morning. They thought the company would shut down. But later in the evenings, the suspension was lifted, and nothing had happened to Feng Yu. Today, Feng Yu announced their bonus and commissions. The one with the highest commissions and bonus amounted to almost 900 renminbi. This was equivalent to the annual salary of a worker at the motor factory. Li Shiqiang went to give out the bonuses and commission, and Feng Yu started translating a few things which were written on a few pieces of paper into Russian. He then copied everything on a clean sheet of paper. He brought the piece of paper to the post office to make an international call and fax to Kirilenko. Feng You really want production machinery facilities and technologies? These things were not easily available. Even if people were selling, the prices would not be low. Kirilenko had asked around. Although there were a few agricultural machinery production factories in a semi-shutdown state, these factories had no intention of selling their production lines. My good friend, Brother Key, surely you have a way. We can talk about money later. Don't worry, I will not let my friends make losses. Then, fine. I will try, and will get back to you within a week. There was a school activity on the day before National Day. This activity was the school's tradition. All the students got to go to the farms to do the harvesting. This was to let the students experience the hardships of a farmer and remind them not to waste food. In every classroom, there were 2 poems about the hardship of farming written on the wall. Under the midday sun, the farmers were working in the fields. Their sweat drips into the soil. Who knows how much hardship was there in each grain of rice? Planting a seed in spring and collecting 10,000 grains in autumn. There were no fields that were not planted, but there were farmers that starved to death. This was a poem by a Tang Dynasty famous poet, Li Shun. But for Fong Yu, who liked history, knew that Li Shun wrote this poem was just to gain the attention of the emperor and get promotions. And after Li Shun was promoted, he just enjoyed his life and was never concerned about the hardship of the farmers. Although Fong Yu does not like Li Shun, these 2 poems were really well written. The students sat in the bus for 2 hours and finally reached a farm north of Bing City. This farm was only about 1 hour away from Feng Yu family farm. There was a cornfield here, and the students were to cut the stalk, peel off the husk, corn, and stack them together to wait for the tractor to transport them away. Now in Longjiang province, the main crops were wheat, followed by soybeans. There were very few cornfields around. That's why they had to travel so far. This was the closest corn farm which the school contacted. There were about 500 students from the school, and they were divided into their classes. The school also allocated areas to each class. There were about 40 students in a class, and they oversaw such a small area. If it were at a real farm, it would take 5 men to finish harvesting this area within a day. The students were all hyped up to experience the life of a farmer. However, there were also students who grumbled. They were from a farming family, and they had to harvest corns instead of helping with their families at their own farms. Fong Yu, Wen Dongjun, and a few others who had come from farming families were more familiar with the farming work compared to the students from the cities. They were assigned to cut the stalks with a sickle, and the rest will follow behind to remove the husk and stack the corns into a pile. Wen Dongjun, like a raging bull, slices through the corn stalks at an alarming speed, and soon he was way ahead of the pack. Look at me. I am so fast, unlike the rest of you. You all are moving at snail speed, Wen Dongjun said proudly with his sickle resting on his shoulder. Fong Yu shook his head and thought, this idiot. Dongjun, didn't you notice you were the fastest among those who oversaw the cutting of corn stalks? You are even faster than those year 3 students. Don't you find it weird? When Dongjun scratched his head and asked, why? It was because the cornfield is only this big. If you had cut all the corn stalks now, what will you do in the afternoon? Watch the rest of the students remove the husk? This means that the faster you are, the more you got to work. You think the teachers will praise you, or the other students will be in awe of you? When Dongjun was speechless, he realized that it was not the rest of the students were slow, but they were taking their own sweet time. He looked around and saw that all the students were chatting while they work. In the end, he was the only silly one working so hard. Learn from us. Work for a while and rest for a while. Or you can sit on those stalks to rest. If you carry on working so fast, you will make the rest of us look bad. You really want that? Fong Yu patiently taught Wen Dongjun the art of skiving. This Wen Dongjun should be good at skiving, but where did all his smartness go? Without a word, Wen Dongjun sat on the corn stalks and rested. But after a while, he got bored. He had nothing to do, and there was no one to talk to him. He saw the corn stalk and got an idea. Fong Yu saw 2 corn stalks which were still green, and he used his sickle to cut it. He then sliced the outer layer of the stem to reveal the tender and juicy part. One bite, and you can taste the sweet juice flowing out. There were sugar canes in the south, and in the north, there was something that looks like corn and sorghum. It was called sweet sorghum. It was about the thickness of a finger and tastes like sugar cane. If there were a lot of rain and not much sun, the lower portion of the corn stalk would also have some parts which were very sweet. Fong Yu used his sickle and cut away the part he bit, and then removed the outer layers of the rest of the corn stalk. He walked towards Li Na with the corn stalk. You must be thirsty. Have some sweet corn stalk. Fong Yu passed the one which he had tasted to Li Na, and Fat Chick snatched away the other. They were the only ones besides this small pile of corns. Now, the rest of the students dared not play with Li Na. This was all Fat Chick's fault. She had spread rumors about Fong Yu's family associating with the triads, and Li Na was dragged along as well. Li Na had hesitated before, but how can she be a match for the wisdom of Fong Yu's 40 years old experience? It only takes Fong Yu a few words, and they were back like before. Li Na took a small bite and slowly chewed. She had a beautiful smile, and her eyes narrowed into a crescent. It's sweet. Ba ba ba. What sweet cornstalk? It smelled like the sewers and had an astringent taste. Fat Chick spat out the dregs and complained. Fong Yu calmly explained, maybe you are unlucky. After all, these are corn stalks and not sweet sorghum. It is normal if there are some which are not sweet. Li Na broke her corn stalk into two and passed half of it to Fat Chick. Fat Chick cautiously took a bite, and it was indeed sweet. You break this half into two, and we share it. Li Na passed the remaining half to Fong Yu. She saw Fong Yu's lips were dry. I can't break it. You eat it. I will be in front cutting those stalks. I can find more of it. Li Na insisted Fong Yu to have at least a bite. Fong Yu leaned forward and was prepared to bite the part where Li Na had eaten before. Who hit me? Fong Yu turned around angrily, looking around. Just when he was about to bite into the corn stalk, he felt something hit him on the back of his head. Ha ha, how was it? This cornstalk bow I made was not bad. I can hit your head from this distance. A few meters away, when Dongjun was holding on to a bow made from cornstalk, looking proudly at Fong Yu. The thing that hit Fong Yu was a small piece of the cornstalk. Fuck. This idiot kept interrupting me. Cornstalk bow? I would like to see if your bow is more accurate than the cornstalk I throw. Fong Yu picked up the piece of cornstalk which Fat Chick had thrown earlier, broke it into two, and threw at that idiot. He must teach this idiot a lesson today. Li Na blushed when she saw Fong Yu breaking that piece of cornstalk into two. She remembered that Fong Yu had earlier claimed that he was unable to break her cornstalk and was about to bite the part where she had eaten. Author's notes. Li Shun was not some kind person, and his reputation as a court official was not good either. There were sayings that he likes to eat chicken tongue. A plate of chicken tongues means a few dozen chickens. There were 2 rest days because of the National Day and the weekends. In that era, there was no golden week, and there was not even 5-day work week. The students finished their tasks in the afternoon, and the farmer collected the corns in a tractor. This activity was finally over after the corns were loaded. Those staying near the farm and the countryside went home for the holidays. They only need to be back in school on Sunday night. Fong Yu had also informed his father, and Feng Xingtai's jeep was parked outside the cornfield. Fong Yu, Wen Dongjun, Li Kuan, and Li Na got a ride in the jeep back to their farms. The 3 boys sat in the rear seats, and Li Na sat in the front passenger seat. Her face was red and kept her head lowered. She dared not look at Feng Xingtai, but Feng Xingtai kept talking to her. Wen Dongjun and Li Kuan kept laughing secretly. Fong Yu, on the other hand, tried to change the topic. If Feng Xingtai knew that Fong Yu and Li Na were dating, Fong Yu would be beaten up by his father with the feather duster. He had got into the best high school in the city, yet he was not studying hard and start dating at this age. Feng Xingtai sent Li Na and Lu Kuan to the village town and then proceed back to their farmland using a shortcut. At their door, Fong Yu saw a few bicycles parked outside. He felt that it was strange. There were visitors at his house. Feng Xingtai's face changed when he saw those bicycles and did not stop. Instead, he sent Fong Yu back to Wen Dongjuan's house. You play at Dongjuan's house first and come home half an hour later. Fong Yu was curious and asked, Dad, what's wrong? It's none of your business. Just come home after half an hour. When Fong Yu entered, Wen Dongjun was surprised. Didn't Fong Yu return home? After a day of working in the fields, he was not tired. Fong Yu, your parents went to the fields? Have some peanuts and help yourself to the drinks. Our family's land finished harvesting last week. I am also not sure what had happened, but I am supposed to stay here for half an hour before can return home. When Dongjuan's mother suddenly said, there must be someone here to borrow money again. Almost every day, there will be someone going to your father to borrow money. Your father is busier than Dongjuan's father, who is the village head. Borrow money? Borrow what money? When Dongjun asked, Fong Yu's family does not have any relatives staying in the village. Who will borrow money from them? Fong Yu understood. This was the sad thing about staying in the farmlands. It was too small, and news spread very fast. If something happened in one's family, everyone would know about it the next day. Everyone in the village said that the Feng family had become wealthy. The daughter had found a wealthy husband in the city. Feng Xingtai can even afford to drive a jeep. The village head can only ride a small Jialing motorcycle. There were some who were close to Feng Xingtai and wanted to borrow 3,000 renminbi. Feng Xingtai just lent him the money without batting an eyelid. This made the rest believe that the Fengs really were rich. A few people also came to Feng Xingtai's house to borrow money. The excuses were either they need a few more thousand RMB to buy a tractor, did not have a good harvest, not enough money to feed their wife and kids. There were some who wanted to borrow over 10,000 RMB for a harvester and will pay back after a few years. At first, Feng Xingtai lent them a few thousand because he had more than 50,000 renminbi at home. But later, more and more people came to his house to borrow money. These shameless people did not even want to give interest and said that they will not be able to repay in the next 3 to 5 years. This money, they will return the money slowly over the years. There were even some who claims that they had helped Feng Xingtai with his farm before, and now he is rich, so he should at least give them a few thousand RMB. They were shameless enough to directly ask for money from him. Feng Xingtai was pissed. His son had earned these monies, and these monies did not drop from the sky. Why must he lend them money just because they needed it? Those few who borrowed earlier promised to return the following year and agreed to include interest at the same rate as the bank. But those that came later were shameless beyond words. The Feng family was not a bank that printed money. However, they were all living in the same village, and Feng Xingtai did not chase them away but politely rejected them by saying he had lent out all his money. But these people did not believe him and even questioned him. You had lent XXX money. Why are you not lending me money? Feng Xingtai was speechless and thought, these were my money, and I can choose to lend my money to whoever I like. Your tone and attitude doesn't sound like you are borrowing money from me, but sounds like you are asking me to repay you a debt. Feng Xingtai was very angry, and he rejected everyone who had came to him to borrow money. Half an hour later, Fong Yu returned home. Those bicycles were not there anymore, and Fong Yu thought that those people had left. But when he entered the house, he saw 2 people inside. They seemed to be waiting for dinner. Oh, Xiao Yu is back. Did you get used to your new school in the city? Oh yeah, your sister got a rich boyfriend, and he should not treat you too bad. Yes, Brother Fong is so lucky. His daughter got a rich boyfriend, and his son can study so well. He definitely can get into university in future and return to the farm as a leader. Fong Yu suddenly asked curiously, Uncle Song, Uncle Zhong, why are you at my house? Shouldn't you be at home for dinner now? The smiles on their faces froze. This kid was chasing them out. Luckily for them, Feng Xingtai said, Xiao Yu, what are you saying? Smiles reappeared on these 2 faces. It seems like Feng Xingtai still wanted face and would ask them to stay for dinner. A few dishes and alcohol later, they will ask for a loan in front of Feng Yu. Feng Xingtai would not reject them. Feng Xingtai said, You think your Uncle Song and Uncle Zheng doesn't know when to leave home for dinner? They do not need you to remind them. The smiles on their faces froze again. They couldn't just say that they wanted to stay for dinner if they were not welcomed by Feng Xingtai. Yes, we are leaving. Brother Feng, we will come back tomorrow to discuss further. I am leaving too. Brother Feng, you don't need to see me out. After those 2 left, Feng Xingtai sighed. Zhang Muhua also came back from outside. When she saw Feng Yu, the worries on her face were all gone. Son, you must be hungry. What do you want to eat for dinner? Stir-fried shredded potatoes and salted duck eggs. While waiting for his mother to cook, Feng Yu asked his father, Dad, how much did we lend out and how many people borrowed from us? I had lent out about 40,000 renminbi to more than 1 people. They also signed an IOU. There were some that will return in 1 year and some 2 years. Side, having more money is also not a good thing. Feng Xingtai lit a cigarette and smoked. Dad, let's move to the town. There is a new building which was completed this year. We can buy an apartment and stay away from these shameless people. No, after we bought the apartment, they would think that we had become very rich and will have more excuses to borrow money from us. At least, we can't move this year. Dad, just forget about it since you had already lent the money out. We are really very rich now. It is only 40,000 renminbi. Anytime, we can take out 4 million renminbi. But we can't carry on lending out money. Especially people like Uncle Song and Uncle Zheng. They don't do any work but play mahjong every day. Even if you lend them money, they are also unable to repay us. Why not I think of a way to help everyone in our village earn some money? Feng Yu thought of an idea and should be able to get rid of these irritating people. An idea to get rich? What can we farm people do? Other than our crops, we have nothing else. We are only good at farming and don't have other skills. Feng Xingtai shakes his head. This Feng Yu is not practical. Dad, you don't believe what I said? You mentioned that we only have crops here. Then we shall do food processing. Those soybean oil, flour, corn flour, beets, a type of vegetables that look like carrots. In the north, they use that to produce sugar, are easy to process. I can get the machinery for these. If one is not stupid, they will be able to operate these machines after training for 2 to 3 days. The Soviet Union's farming industry was on a decline these few years, and the food processing plants were not in a semi-shutdown state. If Kirilenko was able to get his hands on the agricultural machinery production facilities, then he should have no problems getting these food processing machines. There should be no problems with having a processing plant on the farm. Although they were unable to earn much at the start, in future, they should be doing well. As for the sales of the products, Feng Yu can quickly think of ways to popularize those products. The most important thing for Feng Yu was that he could solve the problem of people coming to borrow money every day and help everyone on the farm to get rich. You are serious? Those production facilities are not cheap. Besides, the grain depot and the agriculture department also produces these things. You are sure that we are able to sell these products? You don't worry about the sales channels. I can guarantee that once the processed foods are produced, it will be sold off at high prices. The money for the processing machines is not an issue too. We will not be the only one coming out with the funds. We will be raising funds. Raise funds. Yes, raise funds. Tomorrow, we will use the PA system to inform everyone that we are setting up a food processing factory. Those that are interested must pay for a stake in the factory, and the proportion of the shares will base on the amount they paid. At the end of the year, dividends will be paid out based on the number of shares they hold. 100 renminbi for a share and 1,000 renminbi for a stake in the factory. Everyone from the farm can participate. At least 1,000 renminbi? It's a bit too much. Although many can afford, there will not be many that are willing to come out with that sum. Feng Xingtai thinks that this idea will not work. Some families on the farm earned less than 1,000 renminbi after deducting their daily expenses. They were left with only about 100 renminbi. There were some that had some money but who would want to invest in a food processing factory. This son is good at a lot of things, but he still has a lot to learn when it comes to farming. Dad, you still believe me? I can bring in the most advanced food processing machines from the Soviet Union. The quantity of the soybean oil we produced will be much higher than the grain depot. The quality of the flour will be better, and we can produce more sugar from the beets. You still think that we will make a loss? Feng Yu looked at his father's expression and knew that he does not believe what he said. So, he mentioned about the machines from the Soviet Union to persuade him. Machines from the Soviet Union? Feng Xingtai believed what Feng Yu said when he heard this. His impression of the machines produced by the Soviet Union was more advanced and much better than the domestic machines. That's right. Dad, you just wait to be the boss of the factory. After dinner, we will go to Wen Dongjuan's house. This factory still need the village head's support. It was evening 8 p.m., and Feng Yu spent another half an hour to convince Wen Dongjuan. Finally, he was confident that this factory will work and will help the village to prosper. Early next morning, everyone was woken up by an announcement from the village PA system. Many families had just finished harvesting their fields and were drying their crops under the sun. Only when they finally had a few days of rest, they were woken by the PA system so early in the morning. Attention, everyone. Good news, good news. Feng Xingtai from our farm has decided to set up a food processing factory and is raising funds from everyone. Those who are interested, please come to the village office. This announcement kept repeating the whole morning. Everyone on the farm had heard it. There were some who did not understand the announcement also went to the village office out of curiosity. Brother Feng, you are wealthy now, and you are going to set up a factory. You still said that you don't have any money to lend us? Just help us since we are from the same village. I just want to borrow 3,000 renminbi. I will return you after a few years. Yes, Brother Feng, I want to borrow 3,000 renminbi too. We had known each other for so many years, and you should know me well. Feng Xingtai just kept quiet. He knows these people well, and that was the reason he did not lend them money. These people were shameless and sarcastic. If they were not from the same village, Feng Xingtai would have chased them away. Uncle Song, Uncle Zhong, why are you borrowing money? Feng Yu suddenly asked. Why are you asking so much? You are just a kid and should not interrupt when grown-ups are talking. They must be planning to gamble with the money. You two still have not learned your lesson after getting arrested last time? Get lost, or you will not be getting your welfare benefits this year. When De Guang angrily shouted. These two grown-ups had yelled at a kid in public. They were tarnishing the village's image. When De Guang was the village head and had some authority. After he scolded those two, they kept quiet. But these two did not leave the office and wanted to stay on to watch the show. Feng Xingtai is going to set up a factory? We will disrupt your plans. Almost everyone is here. Xingtai, you can tell everyone your plans. Feng Xingtai stood up and repeated what Fong Yu said last night. But he did not mention anything about the Soviet Union machines. He only said that he wanted to set up a food processing factory, and those who were interested can fork out some money to buy a stake in the factory. This was called shareholding system. There were a lot of private factories in China now, which operate this way. Everyone, don't listen to him. He wants to cheat our money. The money you pay for the shares will be going into his pocket, and he will be depositing the money in the bank to earn the interest. Song Deliang shouted. That's right. Feng Xingtai is so rich, and if he wants to set up a factory, why should he raise funds from us? Didn't you read the papers? There were many people got conned by this type of schemes. Feng Xingtai is a con man. Zheng Guangming also shouted. The two of you shut up. It is an offense to spreading rumors is against the law. You two were just lazing around and doesn't want to work, yet you still have the nerve to say others? You two are a disgrace to your families. Accountant Liu, drag those two out. When De Guang shouted angrily. He had called everyone here at these two called Feng Xingtai a liar and a con man? Doesn't that include him? Fong Yu was quite pleased with those two. From now onwards, who would dare to go to his house and borrow money? If one really goes and borrow money, Feng Xingtai can, in turn, ask them to invest in the factory, just like promoting Amway to insurance agents. Fong Yu felt that this was an opportunity for the fellow villagers, and this was voluntary. He can guarantee those who invest that this factory will be more profitable than farming. Those that did not invest can regret. Although those two troublemakers were chased out, many others also left. They had thought the village was giving out some goodies, but instead, they wanted to collect money from them. Food processing factory? It will be a miracle if it is profitable. In the end, only 7 villagers remained. They wanted to find out more. This included Li Jichuan's father. Feng Yu swore in his heart that if these people invest 1,000 renminbi in this factory, he will let them get back 10,000 renminbi within 3 years. There were 7 people left, but were not particularly resolute. 1,000 renminbi was not a small sum, and Feng Xingtai also told them that there was no maximum amount to invest. The more, the better. These 7 people that remained had privately cleared land at low-lying areas beside the river. They did not need to contribute part of their harvest to the government nor pay taxes. They kept whatever they harvested. That's why they had some spare cash. For example, if Liu Jichuan's family had not borrowed Feng Xingtai's tractor to clear a plot of land earlier this year, he might even have problems coming out with 100 renminbi. In the village, the income gap was widening. Xingtai, you need to tell us where will the factory be located and what will the factory be doing? Will we be managing the factory ourselves or hire someone to do it? Where will the finished products be sold to? If we were to invest 1,000 renminbi, how much dividends will we get next year? Feng Xingtai turned around and looked at his son for help. Feng Yu did not mention these details yesterday. Uncle Liang, we have 2 locations in mind for the factory. First, it is the location of the old chicken farm. The chicken farm had closed, and no one is using that plot of land. We can rent or buy the land. Second, is the plot of land behind the brick factory. But because it will be near to the brick factory, it will affect our factory's reputation, even though our factory will be located at the upwind. Right. We should not build the factory next to the brick factory. Who will buy our flour if it is mixed with dust from the brick factory? The factory will be processing food like soybean oil, wheat and corn flour, and sugar from beets. Soybean oil and sugar suit us best. If the quality of wheat and corn flour were not very good, it would not affect us much. But the soybean oil is different. The more oil we produce and the better the quality, our oil will taste better and can fetch a better price. We can sell to the city, and this will be the same for sugar. The more sugar we produce and the finer our sugar, the more we can earn. This private factory really can compete with the state-owned grain depot. This private factory really can compete with the state-owned grain depot. Absolutely no problem. Because we intend to import advanced machines from the Soviet Union, and these machines were more advanced than the grain depot by more than 10 years. Fong Yu once again brought up the Soviet Union. Everyone looked up and admired the Soviet Union in that era. How much will those Soviet Union machines cost? These machines belong to my brother-in-law, and he will use these machines to exchange for the shares of the factory. I guarantee you all that if you invest 1,000 renminbi today, you will get 10,000 renminbi in 3 years' time. The more you invest, the more you can get back. You all decide for yourself how much to invest. We will not force you. Xingtai, your son can really talk. 1,000 renminbi can turn into 10,000 renminbi in 3 years. Then if I invest 5,000 renminbi now, and 3 years later I can get back 50,000 renminbi. Feng Yu was frustrated. It was not good being so young. Even he was currently attending high school. To these adults, he will always be a kid. No one will treat whatever he said seriously. Feng Xingtai saw the determination in Feng Yu's eyes, and he nodded. Yes. Good. Xingtai, you are the one who said this. You dare to put it in a contract. Feng Xingtai pridefully said, of course I dare. When all of you invest, I also need to prepare the contracts. If I am not able to honor my promise in 3 years, you all can take away the machines. Okay, then I will invest. 10,000 renminbi. Feng Yu looked over. These people were the first few from the village which had become wealthy, but it was normal for them to be rich as they had tractors and harvesters. Also, they were the earlier ones who had cleared the land. After one of them took the leap, the others followed. 3,000 renminbi, 2,000 RMB. They invested whatever spare cash they had on hand, as the returns were better than leaving the money in the bank. Uncle One, Dad, let's go to the farm department to look for the officer. Those 7 had agreed to invest, but Feng Xingtai did not collect the money yet. He gotta wait till he got the approval from the farm department, then he will collect the money. When Duguang followed along and entered the car excitedly, Feng Xingtai was puzzled and said, Village head, I can look for the farm department officer myself. Don't need to trouble you. Feng Yu rolled his eyes. His father really thought that when Duguang was following along to help him, he was going there to claim credit. China was focusing on its economy, and this applies to their district as well. This investment amounts up to over 1 million RMB, and Wen Duguang was the one who headed it. This count as a political achievement for him. Dad, later you will say this. Feng Yu started to teach his father what to say again. The officer looked at the 3 people in front of him. Other than Wen Duguang, he had never met the other 2 before. But Wen Duguang said that they were from his village, and because of his persuasion, they decided to invest 1 million renminbi in building a food processing factory at the district. The officer's eyes widened. An investment of 1 million renminbi. When did the farm have a millionaire and he didn't know about it? Mr. Feng, why did you choose to invest in a food processing factory with 1 million renminbi? You can do other businesses. For example, you can set up an animal farm. Whether if it was poultry or livestock, we have experts from our office and even the city to assist you. The officer had always wanted to develop animal farming, but the scale was too small. In the north, there was this big boss who owns a pig farm, and then everyone from that farm benefited from it. Officer, although I am not doing farming, I can produce animal feed. I wanted to set up the factory somewhere near to Bing City, and if not for when Duguang kept persuading me, I would never consider our farm. When the officer heard what Feng Xingtai had said, he knew that he must be careful with what he said. If not, Feng Xingtai might go elsewhere to set up the factory. Anyway, this factory was producing processed food products and was still considered in the same direction as what the higher-ups wanted. Furthermore, he can also claim credit for this 1 million renminbi investment. Then you will need a lot of workers? I can introduce some skilled workers to you. Feng Xingtai looked at Feng Yu. Why was this officer saying the same thing as what Feng Yu told him earlier? I had discussed with Village Head 1. We will hire people from our village first. Of course, if you have suitable workers to introduce to me, we can also hire 4 or 5 of them. The monthly salary will not be less than 80 renminbi. The officer laughed and looked at Wen Duguang. This old one was thoughtful. Not only he had secured the vacancies for workers, and even kept some for the officer. Deputy Gu is retiring soon and needed someone to succeed him. Wen Duguang seems to be a good choice. With this 1 million renminbi investment and the support of the ex-leader, it shouldn't be a problem. Also, Wen Duguang can oversee the factory as he is familiar with the people there. Your factory is also considered set up by the locals, and the farm department can provide some benefits. I can allow the first year to be tax-free and 50% taxes for the following 2 years. I can allow you all to use that piece of land you requested, but if you want to purchase the land, it will cost. At least 100,000 to 200,000 renminbi. Feng Xingtai smiled. I had prepared 300,000 renminbi. If you can give us a bigger plot of land, I don't mind using all 300,000 renminbi. No problem. I can agree to this too. Then when do you intend to start construction? Tomorrow. Fong Yu called the school and requested for 1 week leave to help his father set up the factory. The reason he gave to the school was that his second uncle had a fall, and he needs to take care of him for the next few days. Of course, Fong Yu doesn't have any second uncle. Xiao Yu, why are we using machines to dig the ground? How much will these cost? We can get people to dig manually, and it will be cheap. Furthermore, it's only the foundation. Why are we digging so deep? 1 meter will do. Feng Xingtai's heart was bleeding. This loser son of his spends money like water. Dad, it's only a small sum. Also, foundations are the most important for all buildings, and we should not save on this. Then we also don't need to build a wall to fence up our factory. Now the brick factory on our farm is only supplying their bricks to us. Feng Xingtai felt that Fong Yu was wasting money to build a wall around the perimeter of the land. Even if they wanted to have a yard, they could just use some branches as fences. Was there a need to use bricks to build a 2 meters high wall around the perimeter? Dad, our machines are costly. You are not afraid that someone would come and create trouble? What about those children from the village? They will sneak into play in the factory. What if they are injured by the machines? You bear to see that happen. Above the walls, we still need to install barbed wires and rear at least 10 guard dogs. We can't use mongrels. Mongrels are not fierce enough to scare people away. Fong Yu started to talk about his plans for the factory, but when he turned around, Feng Xingtai had left. It's depressing. There were generation gaps in this era. To maintain the quality of the construction, Fong Yu had spent a lot to hire a head engineer from the provincial construction company to lead the construction team. At first, the head engineer was not interested. This was only a 1-story factory in the farm, and there was no need for an engineer like him to oversee the construction. This was an insult to him. But when Fong Yu offered him 50 renminbi a day, he immediately changed his mind. He was an engineer, and his monthly salary was only slightly more than 100 renminbi. 10 days, and his salary will be 500 renminbi. This was too attractive. All available construction workers were hired from the farm, town, and farm department. There were more than 100 workers, and there was also construction machinery. What Fong Yu wanted was speed. In another 2 weeks, the land will freeze, and the construction will come to a halt. In that era, there was still no thawing agents or de-icing agents available. That's why he needed to expedite the construction of the factory. Fong Yu wanted the walls of the factory to be 50 centimeters thick despite the engineer telling him that 37 centimeters would be enough. Fong Yu felt that 37 centimeters thickness was not sturdy enough. There were enough bricks, cement, and workers around. Just build a sturdy factory. If the bricks were those hollow bricks, Fong Yu even wanted to add steel reinforcement beams. The factory was divided into 4 sections: oil extraction, sugar production, raw materials and storage, and animal feed sections. Each section occupies more than 10,000 square meters. If it was in his past life, this factory was considered an enormous factory. Fong Yu decided to carry on expanding the factory in future. There might still be a lot of empty spaces left after the first batch of machines was installed. But in future, Fong Yu will slowly fill up the empty spaces. He wants to build a food processing base. Xiaofeng boss, the construction cost for this factory must be high. It is not considered high. It should be around 1 million renminbi. Fong Yu felt that it was very cheap. In less than 10 years, there will be a highway passing through their district, and it will be about 100 meters away from the factory. This factory itself can fetch at least tens of millions then. Although it had exceeded the initial investment amount, Fong Yu still felt that it was a good deal. He doesn't even mind if the factory doesn't make any profits. Nevertheless, Fong Yu is still confident that this factory can make money and it will be a considerable profit. The engineer was shocked. This kid can really talk big. Kids from wealthy families were different. He was talking about 1 million renminbi, just like it was 100 renminbi. In the farm, 1 million renminbi can build 2 high-rise buildings. These types of production line were available in almost every Soviet Union cities. But the newest and most advanced machines were not cheap. After some discussion, they decided to get 3 types of production lines. Oil extraction and sugar production lines will be using the 1985 machine models, and the animal feed production line will be using the 1983 machine models. These machines were considered the most advanced in the whole of China. As for the price, Kirilenko gave Fong Yu a 70% discount. This was a private deal between him and Fong Yu. It will not be recorded in their company's books. The technology of these machines was more advanced than the most sophisticated machines in China by at least 10 years, and Fong Yu had bought them for about half the price of domestic-produced machines. These machines were really dirt cheap. Of course, Kirilenko had forcibly purchased the machines as scrap metals from those factories. In that era, there were corruptions everywhere in the Soviet Union. This includes the state-owned factories. A few factories' directors made money for themselves by secretly selling off those in used production lines machines. It was easy to get these types of machines, but it was hard to get the production line machines for agricultural machinery. Fong Yu not only wanted the production lines, he even wanted the technology. The technology was not only just the documents. It still needs the experts' guidance. After World War II, the Soviet Union had progressed so rapidly was because they had gotten many skilled talents from Germany. As such, they knew that they should not allow their experts to move out of the Soviet Union. However, the Soviet Union did cooperate with some Eastern Europe countries. But after the fallout with China, the Soviet Union's engineers were reluctant to work in China. Mainly, it was because China's reputation was smeared by the rest of the countries. Kirilenko had got his hands on the machines wanted by Bing City's machinery factory, but there were no engineers who were willing to come to China. If there were no experts to calibrate and set up the machines for the production lines, it would be hard for the workers at machinery factory to figure it out themselves. But Kirilenko promised Fong Yu that he will solve this problem soon, and he will find those engineers that were willing to go over to China. Fong Yu thought for a while and said that he wants to offer high salaries for a few mechanical engineering experts. The Soviet Union's economy was going downhill, and their people's income remained stagnant since 1980. This year, they even had a drop in their income. A skilled mechanical engineer's salary was about 500 to 800 rubles a month, and Fong Yu was offering 1,000 rubles a month for them if they come over to China to work. Engineers also need to feed their families. Many families in the Soviet Union were the same. The men would go out and work while the women stayed at home. Fong Yu knew that if he offered a high salary, there would be engineers who were willing to work for him. Since Fong Yu was willing to pay, then it will be easier for Kirilenko to look for engineers. However, Kirilenko told Fong Yu that it was impossible for him to recruit too many engineers, but there shouldn't be any problem to get 3 to 5 engineers. Within a week, the construction was completed. There was a lot of firecrackers, and everyone was all smiles. However, only Feng Xue had a forced smile. The day before, Fong Yu had calculated the total amount spent for the construction of the factory, and Feng Xue's heart almost stopped. Didn't Fong Yu say that it will not be expensive to build the factory? This amount doesn't even include the machinery cost. If adding in the cost of the machines, the total amount should reach 2 million. When can they get back their investments just by selling some soybean oil and sugar? This good-for-nothing son must be taught a lesson with a beating. After the food processing factory was built, Feng Xue went to collect money. Many people in the village realized that he was not a cheat and wanted to invest. However, Feng Xue followed what Fong Yu had said. Other than those 7 people and Wen Dongjuan's family, the rest can only invest 1,000 renminbi and nothing more. Also, they will have to undertake the risk themselves. If they are unhappy, they can choose not to invest. This was a private company, and the major shareholder called the shots. The 3 production lines were on its way to Bing City. There were also 3 engineers who had agreed to accept Fong Yu's offer coming along. They will be working for Fong Yu for 1 year. These engineers had worked in China 30 years ago, and that time, they were not experts yet. Brother Qi had told Fong Yu that there were more than 10 people who were interested but were worried. These 3 engineers that came was because they were poor. If these 3 engineers were willing to stay on after 1 year, then next year there might be more people who are eager to come over and work. These 3 engineers were experts in mechanical engineering. They were skilled in setting up machines for production lines, calibrate machines, and even able to modify old machines from old factories. The machines ordered by the machinery factory was very cheap and more advanced than the present machines by 10 years. Li Mingda was anxious when he heard that the machines had been ordered by will only arrive in Bing City next month. The earlier the machines arrive, the earlier the machinery factory can replace the existing machines. The old machines can then be sold to smaller factories, and he will be able to reap some benefits from these sales. He had reported to his higher-ups in the city government, and the budget was approved. Why were these Soviets so slow? Of course, it was because of Fong Yu. He had asked Kirilenko to send the machines, and the 3 engineers to his factory first. Also, the 3 engineers had to set up and calibrate the machines for his factory. The food processing factory had started to raise fund and stock up soybeans and beets. They had also bought the formula for making animal feeds with the residues from the soybeans and beets from the provincial government agricultural department, and the formula was compatible with their Soviet machines. Many trucks entered the factory, and the 3 experts supervised the unloading of the machines. Each expert was accompanied by a professional translator who was paid 10 renminbi a day. Fong Yu also came back to the factory from Bing City. He was afraid that the villagers would mistreat those engineers. These engineers were precious to Fong Yu as he needed them. Also, he needed these engineers to bring in more experts from the Soviet Union. They cannot be offended. Ready? 3, 2, 1, start. Growl. The machine started to move. Clean soybeans were dropped into a round cylinder, and after a while, yellow soybean oil began to flow out from the oil outlet. Success. Everyone cheered. The installation of the machines took a long time, and the first test was successful. But the Soviet engineers looked at the soybean oil and frowned. There was something wrong with the filters as there were some impurities in the oil. Other than this problem, the machine was operating well. The director of the district's good oil factory was present as well. He said he was there to watch and learn from them. He was there to find out what these Soviet Union machines were capable of. He stood there and waited for a while. Then he discussed something with the man beside him and sneeringly laughed before leaving Tai Hua food processing factory. If their good oil factory were still using the same oil extraction method as last year, their production would not be as effective as these Soviet machines. But now, they were using the leaching process, and the amount of oil production was not lesser than these machines. In fact, they might even produce more oil compared to these machines in future. Also, the good oil factory had the support of the grain depot, and they had access to the raw ingredients. This Tai Hua factory was not a threat to them. The director wondered what the farm department officer was thinking. The officer was helping Tai Hua factory with all the application paperwork, and even gave priority for them to use electricity. Electricity was suggested by Fong Yu. The total investment for the factory amounted to 2 million renminbi, and hired a lot more workers. When Fong Yu indicated about the electricity supply, the officer agreed immediately. Even if there were a blackout at his office, the electricity supply to Tai Hua factory would not stop. There was a widespread shortage of electricity in China at that time. It was the same for their district. A few factories in the cities had only limited electricity supply. Power was supplied to them for a few hours every day and night. This would be fine at the farmlands if they were only doing farming works. But this was critical for a factory. If there were no stable electricity supply, the production would be intermittent, and how can they make money? The oil press and the sugar production machines were tested, and the calibration was completed. The efficiency of these machines was much higher than domestic machines and was using lesser electricity. Fong Yu intended to return to Bing City after the testing of the animal feed machines the next day. At night, Feng Xingtai suddenly told Fong Yu that this factory might not make any profits. "Dad, how can this be? The soybeans and beet residues from the oil extraction and sugar production machines can be mixed with corn and wheat to produce animal feeds. This will greatly reduce our cost. The oil extraction and sugar production rate is very high. Especially we are producing fine sugar. The taste is sweeter. I will be taking care of the sales. What else are you worried about? I heard that Good Oil Factory is using a new method of extracting oil. They are using something called the leaching process, and the quantity they produce is not lesser than our machines. How can we make money?" Fong Yu laughed and shook his head. "Dad, you just wait. Brother Li will bring 2 people here in the next 2 days. You just follow what they tell you. I guarantee that we will be making a lot of money." "Really?" "Of course." 2 days later, Li Shiqiang came to Tai Hua factory with a big truck. Clear plastic bottles were unloaded from the truck. "Shaoli, these are containers for the oil? We're not using big bottles. Now, everyone who bought oil from the shops or factories would bring their own bottles, and the oil would be poured into those bottles from a big container. They have never seen oil sold in small plastic bottles. Those people in the cities were much worse than them. If they want to purchase cooking oil, they need to produce a commodity ticket to enjoy a discount. If not, they would need to pay a higher price. Uncle Fong, these are the bottles for our soybean oil. This bottle can hold about 1.6 liters. Isn't this quantity too little? How long can one bottle last? These plastic bottles are also not cheap." One look and Feng Xingtai knew that this was his good-for-nothing son's idea. sell oil, and even give out a plastic bottle for free. Xiao Yu said that he wanted the bottles to be small, but there will be 5 liters bottles. I will send them over when those bottles are produced in the next 2 days. The sales of this soybean oil will be handled by our Tai Hua trading company. We will be selling these oil at a high price of 0.15 renminbi for 0.5 liters. What? 15 cents for 0.5 liters of oil? That's too expensive. Who will buy this oil? Feng Xue shouted. The good oil factory was selling 0.5 liters at 11 cents. Uncle Feng, you did not hear wrongly. 15 cents is what we will be paying to Tai Hua Food Processing Factory. Tai Hua Trading will be selling these oil for at least 20 cents per 0.5 liters. 20 cents per 0.5 liters? How can it be so expensive? You know how much does 0.5 kilograms of pork cost? Uncle Feng, you just trust Fong Yu. He calls this the premium, high-end strategy. He is targeting those staying in the city. Temporarily, we will supply to Bing City and then the province. By next year, our oil will be sold in Lin Province. What? Premium oil? Ours are only normal soybean oil. Feng Xue was confused. Uncle Feng, our soybeans were carefully selected, right? Our machines were also more advanced, and the extracted oil had to undergo a few rounds of filtering. The quality is much better than the oil sold by the good oil factory. This is called premium. You also notice that there were more and more rich people in the cities. They will be buying our oil even if our oil is more expensive. Don't worry. We are not cheating people. Xiao Yu had said that we can surely make a fortune. Fong Yu obediently stayed in school for a few days. It was the midterm exams, and the students were not allowed to apply for leave. This period, Fong Yu had missed a few days of lessons. Luckily for him, Lina could give him tuition, and he soon caught up with the others. Year 1 was not too difficult. It was Year 2 that was hard. All it takes was to memorize stuff, and Fong Yu had a good memory in his present life. He was still about to get the 10th place in this midterm exams. Those that scored lower than Fong Yu wanted to kill themselves. Except for Wen Dongjun. To Wen Dongjun, as long he was not the last, it's okay. There were still a few who had scored lower than him. When he entered high school, he was in the last position, and now there were a few behind him. This was a vast improvement. Improving a few positions in an exam. Then when it was the graduation examinations, he would be in the top 3 places. When Fong Yu heard Wen Dongjun's theory, he was shocked. Where did he get the confidence to say that he will improve a few positions every exam? These that were behind him were those that had direct entry into the school, and their results were never good. If not considering those few, Wen Dongjun was still in the last position. Forget it. Just let him be. Anyway, Fong Yu had ways to get him into university. Editor Zhang, we are also considered old friends. Your advertising fees are too high. During summer, a full-page advertisement only cost 10,000 renminbi. Last week, it was 14,000 renminbi. Now Editor Zhang wanted 20,000 renminbi for a 1-week ad. No choice. I was scolded by my higher-ups because of your last advertisements. Now, it's 20,000 renminbi if not. You can forget about advertising. Editor Zhang was jealous of Fong Yu's success with the wind and rain electric fans last summer. Just by selling some electric fans, and Fong Yu could earn so much. The last time, he raised the advertising fees, and Fong Yu agreed without any bargaining. So, this time Fong Yu will also accept the new prices. Fuck. Which officer will scold you? I had agreed to 15,000 renminbi for 7 days of advertisements, and it was only a full-page advertisement. Now you are asking for 20,000 renminbi? If not for this provincial newspaper were circulating throughout the whole province, and even sold to Lin Province, Fong Yu would have turned and left. There were still other newspaper agencies. The daily newspaper had increased 4 more pages in their newspapers, and their advertising revenue had grown a lot. They even raised their advertising fees with reference to the wind and rain advertisements. But till now, no one could repeat wind and rain fans' advertising miracle. Editor Zhang can't wait for Fong Yu to perform another miracle so he can prove to the other advertisers. Look, it's not about our newspaper. It was because of your products. You look at others, every time he advertises his products, he was able to profit from it. Now everywhere is charging this price. If you don't believe, you can go and ask around. Furthermore, Mr. Feng's family business is so successful and can't be short of these tens of thousands. Such arrogance. At Editor Zhang's level, his salary was at most 1,000 renminbi a year, and he was talking about 10 to 20,000 of RMB like it was 10 cents or 20 cents. Editor Zhang, it's fine if you want to earn more money, but you should at least increase the days. How about this? From tomorrow onwards, till New Year Eve, I will give you 50,000 renminbi. One day would be more than 1,000 renminbi. No way. One full-page advertisement, 40 over days for only 50,000 renminbi? 100,000 renminbi. I can let you advertise for 2 months. Although the advertisement fees had increased, there were not many that were willing to advertise. Also, no one advertised more than a week. The pressure on editor Zhang was immense. 2 months for 100,000 renminbi? How about this? 4 months for 200,000 renminbi, but on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, Lunar New Year's Eve, and Lunar New Year, you must give me 2 full-page advertisement space. If you still don't agree to this, then I will look for another newspaper to advertise. Deal? Mr. Feng is so straightforward, and I shall not bargain further. It's only another full-page advertisement on holidays. Absolutely no problems. Mr. Feng, shall we sign the contract now? Editor Zhang was overjoyed. He did not expect Fong Yu to be so generous. 200,000 renminbi. This year, the newspaper agency will be able to have a good bonus. No problem. It will be the same as our previous deals. If the advertising message is not against the law, I can do whatever I want, and you all cannot make any changes. We are also allowed to change the products to any products sold by my company, as and when we like. If you break the contract, you will have to compensate me 2 times my advertising fees, which is 400,000 renminbi. To prevent editor Zhang making things difficult for him later due to jealousy, it would be better to make things clear now. Feng Yu does not trust these government officials. These people do not abide by the contracts and just do whatever they want. No problem. We had worked together so many times before. Did I object when you changed the advertisements and pictures every day? Come, Mr. Feng, taste this pu'er tea. This tea was given to me by my leaders. It was mid-October. People of Longjiang province were going to work as usual. These people would buy a copy of the newspaper out of habit to find out what was happening in Longjiang province. This article is quite interesting. It's about lifestyle tips. It listed some food that can't be mixed as it might be poisonous. The second part of the article was even more interesting. It explains how soybean cooking oil was made, the traditional way and the latest leaching process of extracting oil from soybean. Oh no, this is too much. The soybean oil produced using the leaching process is considered chemical products. It uses gasoline to extract the oil from the soybeans. Isn't gasoline made from crude oil? Is that still edible? No wonder the prices of meat had been increasing, but the prices of soybean oil remain the same. This leaching process oil extraction method is just producing poisonous oil. This soft sell advertising used by Fong Yu was quite famous in the later years. It was used on the internet, newspapers, everywhere, and it was quite effective too. Fong Yu did not write that this type of soybean oil was inedible, or it was harmful to people. That would be spreading rumors. Anyway, he had also eaten these types of oil for several years in his previous life, and nothing had happened to him. His immune system even got better. He was not even afraid of gutter oil. The next day, editor Zhang was called up by his leaders for a scolding. How can he publish this type of articles? This leaching process was the most advanced method of extracting oil internationally. Everyone at the good oil factory also eats this oil. If there are problems with this method, will they still eat it? This got to be clarified as soon as possible. Before editor Zhang called for Fong Yu came looking for him with the article for the next day. This article states that the leaching process method was using the latest technology to extract the oil, and there should not be any harmful substances left. If not, the government would not approve this method. This was considered clarifying the rumors about the leaching process. However, at the back of the people's mind, they were still suspicious. The article states that there should not be any harmful substances remain. That means there could also be the possibility that there are still toxic substances remaining. The third day, the article in the newspaper was about the benefits of pressing extraction method. Authentic flavors, more aromatic, full of vitamin E, more extended expiry date, no additives, and absolutely no solvent residues. As for the leaching method, you can check with Good Oil Factory. This era, there were only a few grades of cooking oil. First grade, second grade, third grade, etc. This was also just introduced in that year. Fong Yu remembered that in his past life, the labels of the cooking oil were regulated and must state the method of production, whether the oil was made from genetically modified soybeans, for the consumers to choose on their own. For the next few days, there were lots of articles for soybean oil made from these two methods. Feng Yu even cited from books written by experts and professors in his articles to increase the credibility of the article. From Bing City to the whole province, everyone was suspicious of soybean oil made from the leaching method. Was it safe to eat that oil? Just when everyone was discussing, Feng Yu asked his men to drive a truck loaded with those 5-liter bottles of soybean oil to the Office of Foreign Trade. Today he will be giving gifts openly. Chief Zhang, are you busy? Not so, what are you here for? Nothing much. It's just that my company had some excellent quality soybean oil. I just wanted to give the Office of Foreign Trade some samples. This is not bribery. This is just to let the leaders help us sample the taste and give us some suggestions. Oh, the excuse this time is quite innovative. Free sampling and want feedback from us. Okay, then send those samples to our canteen. Zhang Ruiqiang shook his head and laughed. He will not reject these types of gifts if it benefits everyone in the department. Anyway, these were only soybean oil, and how much can it cost? A while later, Chef Li from the staff canteen came and said that there was too much oil. The canteen only prepares lunch, and he estimates these oils will last them until New Year. This was not a small amount. After Feng Yu finished supervising the unloading, he came back to Zhang Ruiqiang's office. Zhang Ruiqiang asked Feng Yu, what was the meaning of this? Why did he give so much oil? It's really for everyone to sample and give feedback. Our oil was pressed from the Soviet Union imported machines. There are no additives and is healthy. If Chief Zhang asks me if I have any request, then I shall speak my mind. I wish to add the words specially catered for on the packaging. Specially catered for the Office of Foreign Trade? No. Zhang Ruiqiang's face changed. If this matter spread to his leaders, what would they think of the whole department? No. Chief Zhang misunderstood me. It's not specially catered for the Office of Foreign Trade. It's just the words specially catered for. We had not only gave samples to your department. We had also given samples to internal hotel, the city government's guest house, the police stations, motor factory, etc. Feng Yu had a sly smile. Zhang Ruiqiang pointed at Feng Yu, but could not say a word. He did not expect Feng Yu to have connections with so many departments. These departments were trusted by the people, and this is not advertising. They allow you to state that your oil is specially catered for them. No, but they are all using our Tai Hua premium cooking oil now. Chief Zhang, don't worry. I will not make use of your department's name. You better make things clear. Zhang Ruiqiang felt that something was off, but he was still not sure what was Feng Yu going to do. Feng Yu took out a photograph and placed it in front of Zhang Ruiqiang. It was a photograph of a truckload full of Tai Hua premium cooking oil unloading its goods in front of the motor factory. You also took pictures just now. Zhang Ruiqiang was not happy. Chief Zhang, the words that will be written besides this photograph will be, the motor factory is sampling Tai Hua premium cooking oil. What I did was just reporting facts and not making up things. What you wrote was the truth, but others may not understand that. Forget it. I will not dispute with you on this matter. You got all the approval for this oil. Is it really using the Soviet Union's technologies and machines? Absolutely. Our machines were state-of-the-art and the most advanced in China. I got all the approvals and paperwork done. If not, I would not dare to send my oil to your canteen. Zhang Ruiqiang hesitated for a while and asked, was gasoline really used in the leaching method of extracting oil? Why can't we taste it? It's true. You can ask the agricultural department or the good oil factory. They are all using this process. This process was effective. Our country started to promote this process 2 years ago, and this year, this method was introduced to the whole country. This year, my district's factory also started to use this process to extract oil. No, it should be called refining the oil. These are all chemically produced oil. It's normal for people to not taste the difference. Refining oil. This term scared Zhang Ruiqiang. He suddenly felt a little queasy. Is that oil edible? But if it is not, why would the country promote them? But no matter what, he was still feeling uncomfortable. In future, his family should also eat soybean oil made by the pressing method. He dared not to eat those oil produced from the leaching process. After leaving the Office of Foreign Trade, Feng Yu went to the departments he mentioned to Zhang Ruiqiang. Actually, other than the motor factory, he had not sent the oil to other departments. Feng Yu used the photograph taken at the motor factory to bluff Zhang Ruiqiang. Later, he will use 2 pictures on other departments. If he could get 1 or 2 specially catered for signages or banners and hang it outside his company, it would be better than any advertisement. The following few days, there was a few photographs with the advertising articles in the newspapers. These photographs were pictures of Tai Hua premium cooking oil trucks unloading at XX department or XX canteens. On the truck, there was a slogan sprayed: Tai Hua premium cooking oil, pressing out conscience oil, specially catered for. This way, everyone was sure. Look, all these big factories and government departments were using this brand of cooking oil. There must be something wrong with the oil produced by the leaching process. But they also noticed that after the words specially catered for, it was blocked. They can't tell which department the oil was specially catered for. Everyone was guessing, but in the end, they reached a conclusion. Everyone said that the oil was specially catered for the leaders. Nothing was written after specially catered for. That was to let the people guess what was written after that. They can imagine whatever they want. Sigh. Only the leaders get to enjoy this type of oil. We, ordinary folks, can just stick to leaching processed oil. But later, there was a piece of good news on the papers. Tai Hua premium cooking oil, now available in Bing City's cooperatives. This was because the leaders were under pressure, and that's why they allowed the sales of the oil they were eating to the public. Some couldn't wait and went straight to the cooperatives after work. When they reached, they still must queue up. Look, everyone is buying this oil. We must also get this oil. It's not good for elderly and children to eat chemically processed food. What? This oil is so expensive? 1 renminbi for a 1.5 liters bottle. Humph, the oil used by the leaders were so expensive. But we can still afford it. There is also a 5 liters bottle. 3 renminbi. Then give me that 5 liters bottle. Oh, the plastic container is free, and we don't need to return. Not bad. Buy oil and comes along with a free bottle. At that juncture, Wu Jigang and the rest were giving out money to the teenagers from the motor factory hostel. These teenagers were not attending schools or working. Keep this money, everyone. These oils are also for you all. Bring them back. These oils taste better than those at your home. These teenagers were instructed to queue up at various cooperatives since the early afternoon in batches. Every one of them bought a big bottle of Tai Hua premium cooking oil with the money given by Wu Jigang. Not only that, every one of them got 5 renminbi. There were more than 30 of them. With these lads queuing up, those that were still sitting on the fences made up their minds. Now, everyone is buying this brand of oil, so it must be good and must be specially catered for the leaders. With Feng Yu's careful planning and execution, Tai Hua premium cooking oil became very popular in Bing City. But the response in other places in Longjiang province was lackluster. After all, Tai Hua premium cooking oil was priced more than double of regular soybean oil. Not many are willing to spend so much on soybean oil. Although there were some effects from the soft sell advertisements, the TV stations started a series of programs to explain the leaching process. Even the workers at the soybean oil factories are eating those oils. If there are indeed problems with the oil, why would the workers still eat them? If it's only the Bing City market, Tai Hua factory can surely make money. But Tai Hua trading was not making much money. They had given out too many free samples, and the price they were getting from Tai Hua factory was higher than the market rate. As such, Fong Yu decided to increase the advertising efforts to let more people remember Tai Hua premium cooking oil. When people buy cooking oil, they will remember his brand. His goods were distributed to the whole province, but the quantity was low. 1/3 of the oil that was produced these few days remained in Bing City. 1/3 was sent to the cooperatives in other places within the province, and 1/3 was given out as samples. Other than the cooperatives in Bing City bought the oil directly, the other cooperatives were getting the oil on consignment model. It was due to the prices set by Feng Yu. Those cooperatives did not think that these oils will sell well. These oils really did not sell well. Despite the advertisements on the papers every day, there were very few people who bought these oils. Tai Hua premium cooking oil, made from high-grade natural soybeans, pressed using the most advanced Soviet Union machines. No chemical additives. The chosen oil used in the European noble's kitchen. A 20-year-old girl, wearing an apron with Tai Hua premium cooking oil's logo printed on it, was stir-frying prawns, and there was masculine voice reading the advertising message. The last scene was the young girl holding a 1.5 liters bottle of Tai Hua premium cooking oil. Somehow, Feng Yu felt some regrets. There was not high-definition video camera yet. If he can produce A Bite of China, China's first documentary about Chinese cuisine, filmed using high-definition video cameras in 2012, the effect would be better. But never mind it. Feng Yu was still quite pleased with this. This advertisement had highlighted the concept of natural food products. Now, no one understands this concept yet, but it still gives people the impression of high-grade food products. Together with the advertisements on natural food products in the papers, natural food products were popularized. The 10 seconds advertisement was aired 3 times a day on the provincial TV station. Once at noon, once in the late afternoon, and once during the prime time at night. This era, the television advertising fees were quite expensive. But it was the CCTV that was high, and the provincial TV station advertising airtime was still not that high. Just like now, 3 advertisements for 1 year only cost Fong Yu a few $100,000. But Fong Yu had added a clause in the contract which was the advertisement can be changed anytime. A few days later, when the packaging for the sugar was ready, he would do a round of promotions for his sugar. If it were in Fong Yu's previous life, this advertisement would not be allowed to be aired. The chosen oil used in the European noble's kitchen was a lie. Europe doesn't use soybean oil in this era. But how many people in China knew about this? Most people in this era believed everything that was aired on TV. Fong Yu's advertising message highlighted how precious the premium oil was, coupled with the scene of a young lady cooking with the oil, had created a deep impression on the audience. The young lady cooking was his sister, Fong Dannying. Fong Yu wanted to let his sister have a feel of being a commercial star. He hired a makeup artist from the TV station to put on light makeup for his sister. This was very different from the makeup trend in this era, where everyone put on thick makeup and bright red lipsticks. Many people thought that his sister did not put on any makeup. Fong Dannying was young and pretty in the first place, and after putting on light makeup, she was not any inferior to any movie stars. Li Shiqiang was also at the scene of filming, and he was smitten by the beauty of Fong Dannying. The day after the advertisement was aired, Fong Yu's mother called him and asked him if the person cooking was his sister. After getting the answer from Fong Yu, her tone changed and said, "She can get to star in the commercial just because she can cook? Is her cooking better than me?" Fong Yu quickly explained to her that it was because of the lack of time. Next time, he will get his mother to star in the commercial. The advertisement can be changed after 1 month. A middle-aged woman cooking might have better effects. But now, he only wanted to attract the attention of the viewers, and his sister's image was more suitable. In the northern region, Jia City, 2 women in their 30s were walking towards the cooperative after work. "What are you buying?" "Tai Hua premium cooking oil." "What about you?" "Me too. This oil was made using the most advanced technology from the Soviet Union, and it should taste good. Not only it will taste good, but it is also made naturally with no chemical additives. My son had just attended school and should not be eating those cooking oil made from chemicals." That's right. Even though it is more expensive, but it only costs slightly more. Even the nobles in Europe are using this type of oil, and now we can also experience being a noble too. This type of scenes were common in many cities of Longjiang province, and these cities were different from Bing City. These cities had a lower level of acceptance. The sales of the big bottles were low in those cities, but the sales of the small bottles were not bad. Many were just buying the small bottles to try it first. But Fong Yu knew that when the TV commercial carries on airing every day, people will get used to Tai Hua premium oil, and they will continue to buy Tai Hua premium cooking oil. The taste of their oil was indeed better. Now, Tai Hua factory had hired a lot of workers under Fong Yu's instruction. The factories in the cities were operating in 3 shifts, but at Tai Hua factory, the workers were working in 4 shifts. Firstly, these people were farmers. Even if operating the machines were easy to pick up, they had a lack of concern for safety compared to those working in factories for some years. Also, working with machines had some danger. For instance, adding the raw materials into the machines and fire safety. These people did not have a serious view on workplace safety. They might get seriously injured or even die if there were any accidents. If that happens, no amount of compensation would be enough. This was especially important as their district only had a population of 20,000. If there were any accidents in the factory, the news would spread quickly and the reputation of the factory would be tarnished. Fong Yu also decided to headhunt 2 management staffs from the city, but the ones he targeted had rejected him despite offering them more than double their existing salaries. They wanted to remain in the state-owned factories as it was considered an iron rice bowl to them. Why should they go and work in a small factory in the countryside? They would not leave even if they were offered 3 times their current salaries. Fong Yu was disappointed. He can only train his staff himself. He hired those retired factory supervisors to conduct classes on workplace safety for the workers at Tai Hua factory to raise their safety awareness. This period, they had purchased almost 100 tons of soybean and had produced 15 tons of soybean oil. Just with soybean oil, Tai Hua factory had made more than 15,000 renminbi. It was only a short period of time, and they could earn so much. Feng Xue was overjoyed. Based on this result, just by soybean oil, the factory could make about 40,000 renminbi a month and close to 500,000 renminbi a year. Now, he was convinced of what his son had said. 3 years to turn 1,000 renminbi into 10,000 renminbi. But at the same time, he was also worried. They had produced so much sugar, but it was still not sold to the public. Could it be the sugar was unpopular? Why not sell off these sugar production machines and get more machines to produce soybean oil? These soybean oils were popular and can earn more money. Although Fong Yu was not a professional in sales, he had the advantage of the knowledge of future years. Thus, even if he was not able to create some sales miracles, but he will never make a loss. Fong Yu had asked Wu Jigang to contact the sugar and animal feed dealers from other provinces. The focus on soybean oil was only temporarily. He was confident that this business would be profitable for at least 3 to 5 years. Before Fong Yu started to promote his sugar, the machines he ordered for the machinery factory arrived at Bing City. Li Shiqiang went to the village and brought the 3 experts back to Bing City. They were no longer needed at the factory, but Fong Yu still needed them. Director Li, the production line had arrived. Please send someone to collect it. Li Mingde sprang up from his chair. He was waiting for this news for the many days. That's great. I will ask my men to go over immediately. Director Li, this is the procurement list from our company. Please take a look and make payments. Li Mingde was shocked. Why would Fong Yu show him the procurement list? This way, he would know the actual cost of the machines. Although even if Fong Yu does not tell him about the actual costs, he got his ways to find out. But this was 2 different things. Li Mingde took the list from Fong Yu and was surprised that the machines were so cheap. He could not understand that since the machines were so cheap, even if Fong Yu increased the prices by 20%, he would also agree to it. The budget he got from the city government was not a small sum. Mr. Fong, how much should I pay your company? Li Mingde asked. If Fong Yu wanted 10%, he would agree to it on the spot. But if Fong Yu wanted more, he would ask the city government to pressurize him. If he was able to save for the machinery factory, that means he was saving money for the city government. It was written on the list. All the equipment cost 2 million rubles. The transportation and taxes cost 400,000 rubles. Total will be 2.4 million rubles. Don't tell me Director Li does not want to pay. If you don't want these machines, I can sell these for 3 million rubles to the factory in Lin province. I want. Who said that I don't want these machines? I will send you the money later. No, I will ask my men to transfer the money to you now. Li Mingde knew that Fong Yu was not bluffing. Even if these machines were priced at 4 million rubles, there were a lot of factories queuing up to buy from him. But why didn't Fong Yu inform him before the machines arrive? He could ask his leaders to make the appropriate arrangements to avoid taxes. Fong Yu smiled and waved his hand. No hurry. I have a question. Did any of the staffs in your factory studied in the Soviet Union before? No. Then did any one of them worked in the Soviet Union before? No. Then can you all handle the setup and calibration of these machines? Li Mingde was embarrassed. What Fong Yu said was true. These machines were more advanced than those in his factory. He was not confident of doing the setup and calibration of these machines themselves. Seems like he can only ask his leaders for help to send some engineers from the bigger factories over. We will be able to sort this out. Fong Yu nodded. This was as what he expected. Oh yes, Director Li. I had also purchased a batch of agricultural machines production technology. It includes the design and blueprints of tractors, seeder, rotary tiller, harvester, and other types of machines. Are you interested? Fong Yu asked. Li Mingde's breathing grew heavy. Mr. Fong, are you serious? You have the technologies for these machines. Yes, and not only that. I had also hired 3 experts in machinery design and fabrication. Not only they can help you with the setting up of the production lines and calibration, but they can also help you upgrade your existing machines. Of course, they can also teach these new technologies to your engineers. Then I can only thank you. On behalf of the 800 staffs of the machinery factory, I thank Mr. Fong. Wait a second. Don't thank me first. Like I said earlier, I had spent a lot for these technologies and had paid high salaries for these 3 experts. Director Li really want to take these away for free. Fong Yu was frustrated. Didn't he make it very clear just now? All these cost a lot. Why was Director Li thanking him for? Li Mingde laughed embarrassedly. How much more do we have to pay for these technologies and the 3 experts? Fong Yu had a satisfied look on his face. That's right. I did not earn from these machines, And you thought I am running a charity? Not expensive. The total is only 3 million rubles. These 3 experts can work for you for 6 months, and they will leave after that. How much? 3 million rubles? Mr. Feng, you can't ask for such high prices. Li Mingde was astounded. He did not expect these technologies and the experts to cost more than the machines. How was this price too high? If Director Li is not interested, you can tell me straight. I had spent a lot for these technologies and experts, and I did not even earn from you. It is only 3 million rubles, and our Bing City's machinery factory would be ahead of the whole China and even the whole world with regards to the production of agricultural machinery. Furthermore, there are 3 experts included to guide you. This is a good thing, and you still feel that this is expensive? Fong Yu said with a shocked expression on his face. Actually, these technologies and the machines cost a total of 2 million rubles. Although these machines were advanced, they were not the latest technology. Kirilenko had quoted Fong Yu 800,000 rubles for these machines, and 120,000 rubles was for the technology's documents and blueprints. Of course, Kirilenko had gotten these for much lesser. If these technologies were sold on the open market, it would be sold for much more than 3 million rubles. Fong Yu had asked Kirilenko to include the technology prices together with the machines. Although the taxes for doing this would be higher, this would hide the cost of the technologies. It was also not easy for Kirilenko to get his hands on these, and there were risks involved too. In future, they might not have the chance to. How could Fong Yu miss this opportunity to make some profits? Mr. Fong, we are all Bing City's citizens, and this was for the good of the city. Can't the price of the technologies be lower? Now Director Li wants to talk about relationships? Who was the one who backstabbed Fong Yu earlier? I suddenly remembered that I have to make a trip to Lin province tomorrow. I need to rest early today. So, if there is nothing else, I will make a move. Fong Yu said, and stood up. Li Mingde stretched out his hands and pressed Fong Yu's shoulders, pushing him back into the chair. Mr. Fong, we had not finished discussing yet. Please stay for a little longer. Fong Yu said with an angry expression. What's there to discuss? You are the one who thinks that this is expensive. No problem. I also felt that the price is a bit high. Maybe those Soviets had cheated me. I will go to Lin province to ask the factories. If they are also not willing to buy, I will think of ways to refund these. Humph, what more advanced than China by 10 years? I will not do these types of business with them again. No. Mr. Fong, please wait for a while. I need to make some calls first. Please stay for lunch at our canteen. I will give you an answer later in the afternoon. Fong Yu reluctantly agreed to wait for Li Mingde's good news. Fong Yu didn't get the chance to wait for the good news from Li Mingde. He received a piece of bad news, an invitation by the city's deputy mayor. Fong Yu's first reaction was that Li Mingde was up to something again. He must be using his connection with the deputy mayor to force Fong Yu to sell or even give the technology and the experts to the machinery factory. Fuck. Fong Yu really hate this Li Mingde. Fong Yu had thought that Li Mingde had accused Fong Yu of smuggling was just to protect the interest of the factory and its staffs, and because of this, he did not blame him. But now, this guy was creating trouble for him again. However, Fong Yu was also waiting for the chance to meet the deputy mayor. One of the reasons he was selling the machines and the technologies separately was to get the chance to meet the deputy mayor. He wanted to make use of the deputy mayor to beef up the security of Bing City. But when he met the deputy mayor, he was surprised. Why was the deputy mayor him? The deputy mayor who was sitting at his desk smiling to Fong Yu was no other than Zhang Ruiqiang. Chief Zhang. No, it should be Deputy Mayor Zhang. How come it's you? Ha. Are you surprised? I was transferred here yesterday. In future, I will be working here in the city government. Zhang Ruiqiang was laughing happily. He seldom gets the chance to see Fong Yu's surprised look. This Fong Yu always had a calm and composed look and looks like he got everything under his control. Are you surprised? Fong Yu was surprised but not shocked. He knew that Zhang Ruiqiang would be transferred to the city government to be the deputy mayor and then promoted to the position of mayor. After that, he was promoted to the ministries of the states. But Fong Yu could not remember the exact dates when all these happened. He was not sure when Zhang Ruiqiang was transferred here in his past life, but he knew that Zhang Ruiqiang's transfer should be around this period. I was a little surprised, but not very surprised. For someone as talented as yourself, you should be in the city government. Congratulations on your promotion. You know why I asked you here today? Zhang Ruiqiang stood up and walked to the sofa with Fong Yu. You wanted me to know where your office is so that I know where to look for you. Fong Yu pretended to not know the reason. Stop all these pretending with me. You had imported those advanced machines from the Soviet Union to sell to our machinery factory. This is very good. You are making contributions to our homeland. But why do the technologies need such high prices? Zhang Ruiqiang pointed at Fong Yu and asked. I'm innocent. Mayor Zhang, did Li Mingda tell you that I had imported those machines from the Soviet Union for 2 million rubles, and together with the taxes and transportation charges, the total is 2.4 million rubles. Lin province had offered me a high price, but I did not sell to them. Li Mingda only wanted to pay me 2.4 million ruble. I am making a loss here. I also need to spend money to entertain those Soviets. My actual cost for these machines was over 3 million rubles. Really? Zhang Ruiqiang did not believe Fong Yu. If it was over 3 million rubles, why would Fong Yu let Li Mingda see the procurement list from his company? Of course it's true. If it was not me using my connections, you could not get these technologies for even 5 million rubles. You can go and ask Li Mingda if he can purchase those type of machines. The technologies were more precious than the machines. The Great One had just said that science and technology are the most important things for productions. In September, the Great One had just introduced the concept of science and technology as the most important things for productions. Zhang Ruiqiang knew about this, but he did not expect Fong Yu also knew about it too. I shall be truthful to you. The city government gave the machinery factory a budget of 15 million renminbi, 2.4 million rubles for the machines, and the rest for the technology. This was not even 4 million rubles. This was a considerable discrepancy with what Fong Yu expected. Fong Yu thought that the technology was worth at least 20 million renminbi. Although he had spent 2 million rubles to obtain the technology, he still owes Kirilenko a favor. Furthermore, the machines and the technologies were worth more than 5 million rubles. Fong Yu even felt that 20 million renminbi was too little. Now he was offered only 15 million renminbi. The difference was too big. Mayor Zhang also thinks that these technologies should be cheaper than the machines. No problem. I can go to Lin Province's machinery factory. I think they are willing to give me a good price for it. Do you believe that if I spread words of me having the Soviet Union's technologies for agricultural machines, I am able to sell these technologies for more than 15 million renminbi? Zhang Ruiqiang looked at Fong Yu and smiled. Then why didn't you do that? Fine, just tell me what you want, other than money. If it is not illegal, I might agree to it. Zhang Ruiqiang's years in the government service was not for show. He could climb to this position before 40 years old, meant that he was competent. Since Fong Yu had said all these, then he must want something that was not in monetary terms. Fong Yu touched his nose out of embarrassment when he saw that Zhang Ruiqiang got what he was implying. Actually, I also wanted to do something for my homeland, and I am willing to accept a lower price. Since you mention it, then I shall have a small request. Don't you think Bing City is a bit chaotic? Chaotic? What do you mean? The city's planning or the security or something else? Security. Law and order are critical for a city to attract investors. Earlier, my company was thrashed, and you also knew about this. Song Laoxi's nephew was so arrogant, and not to mention Song Laoxi. Now Song Laoxi is still enjoying his life. There is still Cripple Wong, Brother Ku, and the Western Buns. They are all secret societies. To tell you truthfully, if it wasn't for the feelings I had for Bing City, I would have moved my company to elsewhere. Although, I might need to start from scratch again. But that is better than living in fear every day. Fong Yu's original plan was to tell the deputy mayor about this and let him inform the higher-ups. If the city government decided to act against these gangs, then these bosses would be eliminated. This was bothering Fong Yu for a long time. Zhang Ruiqiang took out a cigarette from the cigarette box and inhaled deeply. He kept quiet for a long time. Fong Yu was frustrated. It can't be the city government had no intentions to clean up these gangs, and they are waiting for the central government to pass the instructions down. Or could it be that the chips Fong Yu used to negotiate with Zhang Ruiqiang were not attractive enough? I was just transferred here, and I am still not familiar with the people and things here. The leaders might not listen to me. Zhang Ruiqiang knew that the leaders were making use of these gangs to do some dirty deeds for them when needed. At the same time, they were also collecting evidence against them. Once they had enough evidence, they will arrest these gangs. If they were to stop these gangs now, it would be useless. That's the reason why Zhang Ruiqiang did not promise Fong Yu. So, you are going to sit here and do nothing about them? They may contribute to Bing City's economy, but they are also bringing more harm to the city. I don't believe that you are unaware of their evil deeds. Those are not rumors. Fong Yu was furious. If a good person did one wrong thing, They would be scolded and punished by everyone. But if a wicked person did a good deed, everyone will forgive the bad things that person had done in the past. This was why good people are hard to become saints. But for an evil person who was willing to change for the better, he would become a saint immediately. I will not let them be. Within a year, they will be eliminated. I swear by the party. Although Zhang Ruiqiang had promised Feng Yu, he was still not satisfied. In the original timeline, these people, like Song Laosi and Cripple Wang, can still enjoy their lives for another 2 years. The time was shortened, but it was not enough. Many wealthy people like to donate to the police and the government to improve the security. That was because even if you are wealthy and able to hire a lot of bodyguards, but you might still not be a match for those vicious villains. Just like Hong Kong's richest man, Superman Lee. He was influential, but his son was still easily kidnapped by some kidnappers. The kidnappers even went to his house to demand a 100 million ransom. After that, Superman Lee donated a large sum of money to the police and government to improve the monitoring systems and the police equipment. But what's the use? 100 million was gone, and the whole world knows about it. It even caused Superman Lee's company share prices to drop. Feng Yu does not want that. He still prefers the security of the big cities in his previous life. There were no guns and not many who were willing to risk their lives. Mayor Zhang, I had made it very clear just now. If you want me to accept such low prices, then you must improve the security. If there are no law and order, who is willing to come and invest here? This is business. Since you are not able to meet my demands, then you must give me a price that satisfies me. I can never accept a few million RMB. You can have other conditions, like lesser income tax or company tax. That is unnecessary. I will pay whatever taxes I am required to pay without a single cent less. That's not right. From what I know, your company is selling used cars, and those cars are all luxury cars. But there are no records of your company importing used cars, nor paying taxes for those cars. Zhang Ruiqiang revealed one of his cards. Zhang Ruiqiang had found out about this. Feng Yu still thought that he did an excellent job at keeping these a secret, and this secret would last till the last batch of cars were sold. I imported scrapped metals and vehicles parts, and I paid my taxes for those. Are there any problems? Those cars sold by my company were assembled by ourselves. The vehicle department had inspected the cars and allowed us to sell it. Feng Yu retorted. He had used a loophole. If the city government were to pursue this matter, it would still be very troublesome for him. But if he had not done this in the first place, he would get so many profits. The city did not go after you for using this loophole. My business is legal. If there is any law that states that what I'm doing is illegal, go ahead and list it out. Feng Yu argued. No point arguing. It's still the same thing. If you have other conditions, go ahead and say it out. I really can state any conditions. Feng Yu asked. Zhang Ruiqiang replied cautiously. It cannot be illegal and you are not allowed to use any loopholes. Fine. Those technologies and the experts can be given to the machinery factory for not a single cent, but I want to exchange them for shares. Those technologies were worth at least 100 million RMB, and to ask Feng Yu to sell them for a few million? How could he possibly agree to it? Since you want these technologies, then let me be a shareholder. We can spill the earnings together. What did you say? Exchange for shares. Yes. There are a lot of shareholdings companies and factories. Why can't our Bing City's machinery factory use the shareholding system? I am using my technologies in exchange for the factory's shares. This way, the factory is able to save money and make use of the advanced technologies on the production of agricultural machines. It's a win-win situation. I'm afraid it cannot be done. Zhang Ruiqiang shook his head. How can a state-owned factory letting an individual become a shareholder? Although according to the law, there was nothing wrong and there were also some precedents. However, those were from foreign direct investors and those state-owned enterprises were making a loss. Even then, there were lots of controversies. The machinery factory was still making profits, and the city government were still able to get a share of the profits every year. With the shareholding system and private capital injection, does that mean that Feng Yu will be a backseat driver? Even though he knew that Feng Yu was very capable, but from the eyes of the leaders in the city government, Feng Yu was just a kid, and it was ridiculous for a kid to be one of the bosses of the machinery factory. Zhang Ruiqiang voiced out his concerns, but Feng Yu felt that these were not an issue. He only asked Zhang Ruiqiang 3 questions. 1. If the factory does not have the technologies and just have advanced machinery, how long will it take for the factory to be the best in China? 2. He owns these technologies, and if he decided to sell to other corporations, can the city government stop him? 3. Will the machinery factory be the best in China with these technologies and the 3 experts? Feng Yu kept emphasizing on China, and Zhang Ruiqiang's eyes brightened up. Feng Yu knew that Zhang Ruiqiang was transferred to the city government to be the deputy mayor was to oversee attracting investors and foreign trade. He was also responsible for the enterprise's reforms. Also, earlier this year, there were about 600 to 700 state-owned enterprises converted into the shareholding system. There were some enterprises whose scale was a few times bigger than the machinery factory, and not all were loss-making enterprises. Zhang Ruiqiang had also planned to convert some state-owned enterprises in Bing City into the shareholding system as pilot testing. But he had never considered the profitable machinery factory. But after Feng Yu asked him those questions, he was confident that if the machinery factory were reformed, the factory would be the best in China. To him, it would be a great achievement. If the city government agrees to it, how much are you investing and how much shares you want? Zhang Ruiqiang asked. I will not come out with a single cent. I will use these technologies and the 3 experts to exchange for the shares. I want 3 million rubles worth of shares. I understand the financial statements well, and my shares will be according to the proportion of total value of the factory. I will not take a single share more or less. If you all try to be funny and tweet the figures, then this deal will be off. I will sell all these technical information to the machinery factory in Lin Province. I had already given you concessions on the machine's pricing. If the city still does not agree to this, then that's it. That's it. Zhang Ruiqiang looked at Feng Yu deeply. Feng Yu was implying that he could still get his hands on other advanced machinery and technology. If that is the case, then this Feng Yu is a treasure. The machinery factory was also worth for the city government to invest in. In future, the factory will have the potential to bring in lots of profits for the city. It's only 3 million rubles investment. The city government can inject funds to increase the value of the machinery factory's assets to over 3 million rubles and then take back the funds later. Okay, I will talk to the city government and get back to you within a week. 3 days. I will only wait for 3 days. If you did not get back to me in 3 days, I would go to G Province. G Province is also pushing me for an answer. Feng Yu is also pressuring Zhang Ruiqiang. If after 7 days, you get back to me and tell me that you all still need to discuss and drag for another 7 days, and then another 7 days, the value of these technologies will drop. He must force the city to come to a decision as soon as possible. Zhang Ruiqiang clenched his teeth and said, Fine, 3 days. 3 days later, Feng Xingtai was dragged into a car by Li Shiqiang from the food processing factory and was sent to Bing City. Did you do something bad in school? Why did you ask me to come over? Feng Xingtai's first words when he saw his son was to question him. This made Feng Yu felt hurt. Dad, what are you talking about? I am a good boy. I would never do something bad. Today is good news. I am very busy. Just speak your mind. We had just got more than 10 tons of soybean yesterday, and we are very busy. Where did those 3 experts go to? After you finish using them, send them back to the factory. Without them around, the production speed dropped by more than 10%. Feng Yu looked at his father. Did he really think that those experts were hired for this small factory? Dad, those are not important. The important thing now is that you are setting up another company. Feng Yu was waiting for his father's praises, but what he got was a slap to the back of his head. I am barely coping with one factory, and you are setting up another company? You want to work me to death? Feng Yu rubbed the back of his head and said, Dad, did you ever do anything for Tai Hua Trading Company in Bing City? How can you say I am working you to death? I told you to let the others manage the processing factory, but you insisted on managing it yourself. You are right. Then tell me, why are you setting up another company? What is this company for? Feng Xingtai laughed and rubbed the back of his son's head. You know about Bing City's machinery factory? The plowing machine and the seeder in our farm were produced by this factory. You want to set up a machinery factory? No, I am buying a share of the machinery factory. Tomorrow you will be signing a contract, and then you will be one of the shareholders of Bing City's machinery factory. In future, you will get 10 cents from every dollar earned by the factory. What? Buying a stake in the machinery factory? How much will that cost? If you have the money, why don't you buy more machines to produce soybean oil? We can make a lot from soybean oil. Dad, I had already paid the money. Slapped. You this good-for-nothing son, who let you make such decisions? Feng Yu stepped back to a distance he felt safe and patiently explained. Dad, this investment will surely make money, and I am using technologies to exchange for the shares. I am using the technical information from the Soviet Union. Think about this. We have no use for these technologies. Are you going to set up a machinery factory? I wanted to sell this information to them, but they can't afford it, so they use their shares to exchange for these technologies. If you are not going to sign the contract, then the money spent will be down the drain. When Feng Xue heard that the money would be wasted if he does not sign the contract, he stared hard at Fong Yu. This is the last time. If you do this again in future, I will beat you to death. Xiaoli, you must watch over him carefully and make sure he goes to school. The money we are earning is not enough. Every day only thinks about making more money. He is becoming a slave to money. Li Shiqiang covered his mouth to stop himself from laughing out loud. He said, Uncle Feng, Xiao Yu's results in his midterm exams was not bad. I have been monitoring his studies closely. What's wrong with trying to earn more money? Fong Yu said softly to himself. What did you say? Say it louder. Nothing. Dad, don't worry. I will not ask you to set up companies again. Fong Yu said and thought to himself. I will apply for my identification card next year, and I will set up companies on my own. That's right. You need to study hard and get into a good university. What's the use of having so much money? People will still look down on you. Feng Xingtai was satisfied with Feng Yu's change of attitude. After that, Feng Xingtai started talking about the food processing factory. The farm department officer had promised to give him an award at the end of the year, and he will be on the district's TV station to receive it. Fong Yu just listened patiently and said something like, really? That's great. To show that he was listening. This made Feng Xingtai beaming with joy. Where is Dongjun? Fong Yu's heart jumped. That's it. He was about to get exposed. And almost immediately, Li Shiqiang replied. In school. Fong Yu suddenly felt a killing intent, and he quickly steps back to dodge his father's hand. This useless son, you are skipping lessons again. Don't you dare to run? I will beat you to death. Xiaoli, stop him from running. Fong Yu laid face down on the couch after getting punished by his father. Dad, I still have classes tomorrow afternoon. How am I going to sit on the chair? What afternoon? You better get back to school in the morning. But we are signing the contract with the machinery factory in the morning. I can sign the contract with Xiaoli. You don't need to be present. Dad, do you know that there are a lot of traps in a contract? Furthermore, I am holding on to the technologies documents, and the other party will not sign the contract if they did not see me. Rest assured, this is the last time. I will not be skipping classes again. In his heart, I will not be caught by you if I skip class again. The next day, at 10 in the morning, they drove to the city government. Zhang Ruiqiang had convinced his leaders to agree to the machinery factory's restructurings within 3 days. In future, Bing City's machinery factory will be renamed as Bing City Machinery Corporation. Of course, the factory will still be producing agricultural machines. Sitting in the center of the conference hall, Feng Xingtai was feeling very uncomfortable. Everyone around him was leaders, directors, or officials. The highest ranking among them was the deputy mayor. That was the city's deputy mayor and was of a much higher rank than the farm department officer. Earlier, the deputy mayor even shook his hands. Till now, his palms were still sweating. Fong Yu read through the contract carefully and used a pen to change some of the terms of the contract. He said to Zhang Ruiqiang when he passed the contract to him, "These terms need to be changed. We cannot accept such unreasonable clauses." What's wrong? Whoever owns more shares will have the final say. That is true, but you can't deprive us of our right to voice our opinions. Also, we must have the right to check the finances, and any amount involving more than 10,000 renminbi needs to be approved by our authorized personnel. If not, the money cannot be moved. These clauses I requested are not unreasonable. There is one more clause. The percentage of our shares must remain the same if there are any capital injections in the future. We can accept having only one person on the board, but if there is any proposal involving more than 1 million RMB, we have a vote of veto. It is too troublesome to ask your side for approval for financial matters. Also, why the equity cannot be changed when there is a capital injection? You had put in lesser capital, and so the percentage of your shares will be lesser. Lastly, the vote of veto is ridiculous. I have never heard of it before. Li Mingde retorted loudly. The finances of a corporation must be monitored by all shareholders. But that is just a formality. Every corporation works this way. If you are injecting more capital, we will also do the same. Don't worry. As for the last clause, it is the most important. If everyone agreed to donate 10 million renminbi to the city government, I must also follow along. Fong Yu scoffed. There were other issues in the contract which Fong Yu did not point out. This was considered giving the city government face. If the city government don't agree to the 3 clauses, then he will not allow his father to sign the contract. It was impossible for Fong Yu to accept these unreasonable clauses set by the city government. If it was a foreign investor, the city government might not be doing this, but Fong Yu was a local from Longjiang province. The original value of the machinery factory was only worth slightly more than 10 million rubles, but it was suddenly inflated to 27 million rubles. Part of it was because of the city government injecting capital into it, but the fixed assets were overvalued. By keeping quiet, Fong Yu was already giving in to the city government. If it weren't for maintaining a good impression and future collaborations with the government, Fong Yu would have pointed it out. The city government was treating him as a sucker. The machinery factory wanted to dilute Fong Yu's shares, but Fong Yu was also thinking about the same thing. He will slowly let this factory become part of his conglomerate. Director Fong, please give us your opinions. Li Mingde turned to Feng Xue. Since he can't handle the young one, then he will try to persuade the older Feng. Although Feng Xue does not really understand what was going on, he still trusts his son entirely. He shook his head and said that he had no other opinions as long as the city government agreed to Fong Yu's terms. The officials from the agriculture department and some leaders from the machinery factory tried to persuade Fong Yu. In the end, they started pressurizing him by using the national interest. Fong Yu just ignored them. This was also not some military products. There were only agricultural machines. They also stand to gain from it. Furthermore, Fong Yu had already made some concessions. If not, he would bundle the machines and technologies together to negotiate with them. He would ask for at least 20% shares. Zhang Ruiqiang saw the negotiations were not going well and both parties were about to start arguing. He immediately stepped in. Mr. Fong, we had come to an agreement yesterday, but why today become like this? You ask me? You should be asking them. We don't talk about something else. Just these production machines. I had just sold these machines to the factory for 2.4 million rubles, and now they valued these machines at 4 million rubles and claimed that these machines were worth this amount. One look and you should know who is in the wrong. If I can import a set of machines, then I can import another set. I can easily find 10 interested parties that want to work with me. That's because I am able to import the most advanced machines, and I have the most advanced technologies. Li Mingde, you all are in the wrong. You all should seriously consider about Mr. Feng's clauses. Zhang Ruiqiang hinted. He already knew that there was something fishy with the documents. He was also doing this to these things to get the most benefits for the city. But he did not expect the machinery factory to be so lousy. Inflating the value of the fixed assets and letting the other party find out at first glance. A bunch of useless people. During the meetings at the city government, they were instructed to build good relationships with Fong Yu. If he could get his hands on Soviet Union's advanced machines and technologies, that means he is competent. If Bing City could get more of these machines and technologies, then it was only a matter of time for Bing City to restore its former glory of being the nation's industrial base. Son, what's happening? You are saying that these people are trying to cheat us. Feng Xue pulled Fong Yu to a side and asked softly. These leaders should not be cheating money from the people. Don't worry. I had intentionally let them cheat me. Without the support of the motor factory, city government, or even the provincial government, it will also be hard for us to survive. Rest assured, we will not make any losses. Now Kirilenko was having difficulties getting these machines and technologies. The risk was also huge. But that was because of the low prices Kirilenko offered, and some factories were not easy to negotiate. It's only 1 year, and the Soviet Union's economy will be at its lowest. More factories will shut down, and those who are daring will start to sell off the machines. When that happens, Fong Yu would be able to import more advanced machines and technologies. By then, Fong Yu will not give in to these people. He will use those machines and technologies to be the major shareholder and take control of the factory. The current leaders of the machinery factory were too conservative. With them leading, the machinery factory's development would not be good. Although Fong Yu is not an expert in this, he was confident to lead the factory. Li Mingde and the rest got together to discuss. This younger director Fong was not someone easy to deal with, and the older director Fong just kept quiet and let the younger director Fong make all the decisions. Why not just agree to their terms? But the 3 conditions set by Fong Yu were making them uneasy. They had wanted to give Feng Xue the title of an assistant manager or some union chief. Anyway, it was just a title, and no authority comes along with it. The one with the final say would still be Li Mingde. Unfortunately for them, Feng Yu did not fall for their tricks and even pointed out the issue of inflated fixed assets value. If they still do not accept Feng Yu's conditions, Feng Yu might request to re-examine the value of the factory's assets. Fine, we will amend the contract as you requested. Then can you sign now? You amend the contract and let me look first. Feng Yu slowly scrutinized the amended contract. This time, Li Mingde did not try any tricks. He only changed the terms Feng Yu pointed out and did not add in other clauses. Dad, you can sign it now. Feng Xingtai sat at the center table and signed the contract together with Zhang Ruiqiang. There was a SASAC, State-Owned Assets Supervision and Administration Commission of the State Council, seal on the contract. This type of contract, Li Mingde was still not qualified to sign. Feng Xingtai's facial expression was very stiff. There were people from the TV station recording the contract signing ceremony. He was about to go on TV. Feng Yu hid in a corner. His father can be on TV and become a high-profile entrepreneur. But if he was named as a successful young entrepreneur, then he won't be able to attend school. For the celebration, let's have lunch at the motor factory canteen. Li Mingde waved his hands and said loudly. Feng Yu shook his head when he saw the food and alcohol on the table. There were only 12 people, including Zhang Ruiqiang, Feng Yu, and Feng Xingtai, at this lunch, and there were more than 20 dishes on the table. There was also Maotai, Chinese wine. These were at least more than 10 renminbi per bottle, and there were 6 bottles. This sumptuous meal was comparable to the meals eaten by the rich in Feng Yu's previous life. Feng Yu casually asked, "Director, how much does this meal cost?" "Not much. We will reimburse from the factory." "What are you worrying?" Li Mingde said, smiling happily. "That's what I am worried about. There are serious problems about reimbursement from the factory. The reimbursements of some factories' leaders were higher than those leaders in the city government. They still reimburse for their holidays and receptions. These are all factory funds, and I am paying for part of it. These funds cannot be spent this way. This is the reason why I want to watch over the finances." Feng Yu said seriously. Everyone's face changed. Feng Xingtai was still holding on to his cup, but he soon noticed everyone putting down their cups and staring at his son. "What? They try to bully my son. They will have to pass through me first." Feng Xingtai opened his eyes wide and chose one of them and stared back. "Director Feng, your worries are a bit unnecessarily. We are having such a good lunch was only to celebrate you becoming a shareholder. Let's not talk about these. Here, have some vegetables and wine." Li Mingde said loudly, changing the subject. Feng Yu did not carry on talking about this. Concepts cannot be changed in a day or two. Feng Yu wants to be the major shareholder of the factory within 2 years, so he can fire anyone who misused the company's funds this way. Author's notes. P.S. Machinery factory is very important, but the city's support is even more critical. That's why Feng Yu seems to be taken advantage of, but this is only temporarily. He will earn everything back soon. I had a bottle of Maotai from the 80s, but in the year 2000, I dropped the bottle. I was sad for a very long time. The restructuring at the machinery factory was not completed. The contract was signed, but they need to wait for a few days before the share certificate. Feng Xingtai returned to the village as he was worried about the food processing factory. Feng Yu had handed the technology's information and the 3 experts over to the machinery factory and returned to school. The other students were used to Feng Yu skipping classes every now and then. The teachers were unable to do anything as the vice principal was protecting him. But only after 2 days, Feng Yu applied for leave again. This time, Feng Yu was forced to take leave from school. Last week, the final batch of used cars had arrived, and the motor factory had worked overtime to complete the refurbishment of those cars. Today, all the refurbishment was completed, and Fu Guangjing had come in Bing City in the morning. This batch of used cars kept Kirilenko busy for a while. Although there were a lot of British cars in the Soviet Union, there was not much selling used British vehicles. Kirilenko had spent a long time in Moscow and the surrounding cities to find enough second-hand luxury cars. He only managed to get 53 cars. Based on his estimation, there will not be more than 10 used British luxury cars in Moscow and the nearby cities. Luckily, Feng Yu had started the importation of machinery and technologies business. This allowed Kirilenko to drop his business partners and venture out on his own. Just by doing this business, he was earning a lot more than before. Of course, the quantity of China's product Feng Yu sold to Kirilenko had also increased by a lot. In Moscow and its nearby cities, he was the most popular supplier of China's products. Every day, He would just lie on the couch and drink vodka. But his money kept increasing. Fu Guangjing came out of his hotel and went straight to Tai Hua trading with his men. The last batch of used luxury cars, especially those sports cars, was sold for sky-high prices. He got those cars for an average of 400,000 renminbi, and he sold them for an average of 630,000 renminbi. After deducting the transportation and other miscellaneous costs, he still got a profit of more than 30%. Although the profits were much lesser compared to him selling antiques, it was not often to get an excellent piece of antique. Also, the risk of getting an imitation antique was great. This used car business was safer and more stable. It would be great if there were a constant supply of these cars, especially sports cars. Sports cars were extremely popular in the coastal region cities. A few mechanics were inspecting and testing the cars while Fu Guangjing and Feng Yu were sitting by the side chatting. Mr. Feng's business is booming. In future, if you have good projects, please ask me along, Fu Guangjing said, using his Cantonese accent Mandarin. This made Feng Yu cringed. But Fu Guangjing's Mandarin had improved a lot compared to the previous time they met. Feng Yu can tell that he had put in a lot of effort to improve his Mandarin. To be successful, one must put in a lot of hard work. Since Mr. Fu mentioned it, I do have a good investment opportunity, but I am not sure if you will be interested. Fu Guangjing moved closer to Feng Yu. What opportunity? Please tell me about it. Recently, the antique business had been a bit slow, and there were more and more people going into the antique business. It was getting more difficult for him to get good antiques. Last month, there was an expert who had misjudged an antique, and it caused him to suffer a loss of few million. Fu Guangjing knew that he was not as skillful as the expert and was worried that the same thing might happen to him. Investments would be a better option for him as the risk and losses were not as significant. For example, Fu Guangjing's used cars business. He was even praised by his father. His father was glad that he had started doing business in China. It would be better if Fu Guangjing is able to invest in some industrial factories. When he heard that Feng Yu had a good investment project, he was interested. He had no problems investing a few million RMB. If he wants, he could easily raise 10 million renminbi. Is Mr. Fu interested in machinery manufacturing? Machinery manufacturing? What type of machines? Fu Guangjing frowned. The manufacturing technology in China was still far behind the US and Europe. Although it has potential, I still require the relevant technologies. Currently, it is still agricultural machines. We are using advanced machines from the Soviet Union, and there is guidance by experts from the Soviet Union. Also, we have the Soviet Union's most advanced technologies. Fu Guangjing's eyes widen. Mr. Feng is able to get your hands on these. In addition to agricultural machines, do you still have other technologies? Mr. Feng, why are we doing these manufacturing ourselves? We can just sell these technology data, and we will be rich. How about this? We will partner, and I will come out with the capital, but you will get the bigger share of the profits. Feng Yu shook his head and said, Mr. Fu, things are not as easy as you think. You might not understand the situation in China now. If you do not have the backing of the Chinese government, you will be arrested before you are able to sell those technologies. I am now working with Bing City's machinery factory, but the factory had been renamed as Bing City's Machinery Corporation Limited. My father has a 10% stake in the company. If you are investing, I guarantee you will get more than 50% returns within 3 years. Fu Guangjing lowered his head and was deep in thoughts. There were lots of problems when working with state-owned enterprises. He had met many state-owned enterprises leaders in the South, and the thinking of these leaders were conservative and lacking management skills. Will the prospects be good if he were to work with them? But now, the factory had advanced technologies and machinery from the Soviet Union, and it will be easy to capture the market. Furthermore, Feng Yu is a very capable person, and even his father has a 10% stake in the factory. This investment should be fine. Also, what Feng Yu said was true. Without the Chinese government backing, it will be very inconvenient to do a lot of things. Mr. Feng, can you tell me why you wanted me to invest in this? Fu Guangjing looked at Feng Yu. He felt that Feng Yu was not telling him everything. Actually, I can contact a lot of people. But the reason I asked you to join me is that you are a Hong Kong businessman. There are a lot of things which I dislike about the factory. The finances are in a mess. The management style is backward. The factory leaders are conservative, and the city government kept interfering with the factory's operations. With your investments, I believe that all these will change within 1 year. The biggest shareholder will call the shots in a shareholding company. What makes you think that they will listen to you? What if I am able to be the biggest shareholder? Feng Yu replied Fu Guangjing with a question. You are going to inject more capital to dilute the shares of other shareholders. Fu Guangjing's face changed. Dilution of shares would mean that his shares would also be diluted. Then what's the point of investing? Just to help Feng Yu. You can also carry on investing. If you have not enough funds, you can borrow from your father. With these shares as collateral, he will lend you the funds you needed. You should be able to foresee the potential of this factory. You should know that China is an agriculture country and the market for agricultural machinery is very big. Also, I will not be using money to inject capital. I will be using advanced machinery and other types of technologies to invest. They will not reject me. Also, these machines and technologies are at least 10 years ahead of China. How much can the factory make in 10 years? You should know the math. Fu Guangjing was feeling giddy from Feng Yu's beautiful picture. He hesitated for a while and said, Mr. Feng, can you let me consider first and get back to you in a few days? Feng Yu understood. Fu Guangjing needs to discuss with his family first. Of course, you can get back to me before New Year. After Fu Guangjing left Tai Hua Trading, he went straight to a post office to make a phone call back home. He felt that he needs to discuss with his father. Although his father does not really like him, if it was regarding business, his father will still give him some pointers. After hearing the circumstances from Fu Guangjing, Fu Rongjing felt heartened. He might treat his elder son better, but Fu Guangjing was also his son. How can he not care for him? Fu Guangjing had not walked the path Fu Rongjing planned for him. He had taught him about investing, but he was not interested. Instead, he just likes to meddle with antiques and had wasted lots of money. Luckily, Fu Guangjing had learned his lessons and at least was able to not make any losses now. However, Fu Rongjing still felt that antique business was too risky. But 2 months ago, Fu Guangjing started a British used luxury car business, and the profits were not low also. This business attracted the attention of Fu Rongjing. If his son could know some capable people in China, it will be useful for the whole Fu family. Fu Rongjing had never heard of Bing City's Machinery Corporation Ltd. before. But if it was as what his son had said, the factory was using Soviet Union's advanced machinery and technologies, and there were also experts from the Soviet Union there, then it will be worth investing. But the thing that made Fu Rongjing happy was that Fu Guangjing got to know Feng Yu. A teenager, who was still attending high school, was able to do Sino-Soviet trades and able to get his hands on the most advanced technologies and machinery, which even the Chinese government were unable to gain access to. There must be someone powerful behind him. Fu Rongjing felt that building a good relationship with Feng Yu was worth more than letting his son making some profits now. He was glad that his son could have such capable friend. He decided to give his son the money for the investment. It's only 3 million rubles. When he heard that his father was giving him the money for the investment and he does not need to raise funds from his friends, Fu Guangjing was overjoyed. This way, not only he was able to have a good relationship with Feng Yu and stable investment, the most important thing was that he still has his own money left. He can even do his antique business. Li Mingda was having headaches for the past few days. The machines Feng Yu sold to the factory were excellent and much more advanced than their existing machines. They also researched the technology's information, and these technologies were indeed at least 10 years ahead of China. The experts from the Soviet Union had helped them set up and calibrated the machines, and also helped them to modify their old machines. But it was also this restructuring process let him become a scapegoat. Initially, he had told the city government leaders to increase the value of the fixed assets and then inject a large sum of capital to reduce Feng Xingtai shares proportion. After the restructuring, the money will be returned to the city government. After all, even when the factory was converted into a private company, he was still the general manager. It would be easy for him to transfer these funds out. But he never expects Feng Yu to bring in a finance officer, and even added a clause in the contract, stating that any financial matters involving large amount would need Feng Xingtai or Feng Xingtai authorized representative approval. If he can only transfer a few thousand RMB at one time, how long will it take for him to withdraw the capital injected by the government? Furthermore, anyone looking at the accounts could easily spot this discrepancy. He will be in big trouble then. Now, the city government was chasing him to return the funds, and Li Mingda went to Zhang Ruiqiang for help. But Zhang Ruiqiang asked him to think of a solution himself. In the first place, Zhang Ruiqiang was the one who had hinted this idea to him. Zhang Ruiqiang himself also did not expect Feng Yu to be so sharp and had already preempted the tricks they might be using. Now he was also in trouble. He had promised the mayor that the funds injected into the factory will be returned to the city. He thought that the funds could be withdrawn after a month, during the year-end dividends. But now, the city government needed this money urgently and can't afford to wait for 2 weeks, let alone 1 month. Zhang Ruiqiang was still thinking when he saw Li Mingde entering his office again. "Old Li, is there anything else?" Zhang Ruiqiang was unhappy. He was helping him to think of a solution, and there was no use for Li Mingde to keep visiting his office. There were many other things to handle besides the machinery factory. "Mayor Zhang, I had just received news that there is a Hong Kong businessman wanted to invest in our factory. Do you think we should sell some of our shares to him? This way, we will be able to return the 20 million renminbi to the city government." "Hong Kong businessman? Does he have the financial strength? How much can he invest?" Zhang Ruiqiang was ecstatic. Now, China wanted to attract investment from Hong Kong first, and then followed by other foreign funds. Bing City still does not have any investments from Hong Kong yet, and this will be the precedent for them. Li Mingde replied embarrassedly, I have yet to find out. That businessman will only be visiting the machinery factory in the afternoon. I will find out after his tour of the factory." "Fine. Then what are you waiting for? Go back to the factory to make arrangements now. You must get him to invest." Li Mingde left Zhang Ruiqiang's office, and Zhang Ruiqiang immediately went to the mayor's office to report this matter. This was good news, but if he were to make all the decisions himself and claimed all the credit, then it will be a wrong move. "Mr. Feng, you are not coming with me? Didn't you have a stake in this company too?" Fu Guangjing was feeling puzzled. Fong Yu smiled mysteriously and said, "I will not be going with you, and it's better that you don't mention me at all. Most importantly, don't tell them that I was the one who asked you to invest in this factory. If not, you will not be able to invest." "Why?" Fong Yu pointed to his own head and said, "Because of the different thinking and views. They were cautious and wary of me. If this is Hong Kong, I will still be working with them. I will be thinking of ways to take over them, as I am the one who provided them the machines and technologies. However, this is China, and I must work with them for the time being. If not, there will be lots of trouble later." Fu Guangjing frowned and said, "Even if we add both of our shares together, it will still be less than 50%. They will still have the final say. Don't worry. This is only temporary, and it will not affect our profits. China's policies will be liberalized further in a few years' time, and that's when we can flex our muscles. If you are regretting, you can still give up this opportunity." Feng Yu said smilingly. Fu Guangjing remembered what his father told him, and he looked at Feng Yu. "No, since you said that this factory is worth investing, I will trust you. Actually, this afternoon visit to the factory is just a formality. I will surely invest my money in this factory. No matter what happens, Fu Guangjing will not suffer any losses. The funds were provided by his father, but under his name. Even if it were a failed investment, he would still have close to 20 million renminbi worth of assets more. Worst come to worst, he can just sell off his shares. With this money, he will be one of the top antique dealers." Feng Yu nodded. Since Fu Guangjing trusted him so much, he might include him to earn money together in future. "I can promise you that you will not regret making this investment. Hang the banner higher. Why is that colored flag crooked? There is a leaf at that corner. Hurry and go sweep it. The big boss from Hong Kong is arriving soon. He is a foreign guest, and everyone must welcome him properly. This does not only concern our company's image and also the city government and even our provincial government. You all must take note of this." "Factory? No, it should be general manager. What do you think of this arrangement?" Li Mingde looked around and nodded. "It's fine. What about the arrangements at the canteen?" "It's settled. We have prepared a lot of wild games, and it will be something that this big boss from Hong Kong have never eaten." "Good. If we succeed, you will get some credit." Honk, honk. A black sedan car appeared at the entrance of the factory. The appearance of this car was majestic. There was a small flying goddess standing upright at the front of the vehicle. Many felt that this car was luxurious, but had not seen the logo before. It was not Mercedes-Benz or BMW. The sedan car stopped, and the driver alighted to open the rear passenger door. A man wearing a black coat, bowler hat, a white scarf, and polished leather shoes alighted from the car. "Which one is Li Mingde, Manager Li?" Li Mingde hurriedly steps forward and used both his hands to shake Fu Guangjing's hand. "I am Li Mingde from Bing City Machinery Corporation Limited. We are here to welcome Mr. Fu to invest in our factory." "It's visiting. I have not decided to invest yet," Fu Guangjing said. His Cantonese Mandarin was making Li Mingde uncomfortable, but Li Mingde had no choice. That car was a second-hand Rolls-Royce which Feng Yu had kept for himself. Fong Yu had lent Fu Guangjing his Rolls-Royce, but the driver was Fu Guangjing's man. The driver was from the south, but knew Mandarin. He also doubles as Fu Guangjing's translator. Fong Yu had told Fu Guangjing that for this investment, he needs to position himself highly. He must not show any eagerness. The more he showed that he was not anxious about investing in the company, the better the conditions he would get. As for his dressing, it was still okay if he was in the south. But this was the northeast, and it was November. The temperature was lower than -10 degrees Celsius. The moment he stepped out of the car, he shuddered. He should have worn a few more pieces of clothing inside. He secretly swore that he will not come to Bing City in the winter. It's too cold. It's the same. After your visit, you will still be investing in our company. Mr. Fu, this way. I will bring you around our factory. We have the most advanced machinery from the Soviet Union, the most advanced technologies, and experts to guide us. We are the best in the country. Li Mingde enthusiastically said. Fu Guangjing strolled with his head held high. He looks like he was just casually looking around, but in fact, he was observing the factory carefully. This was different from what he imagined. The factory was huge and lean, but when he saw the banners and colored flags, he knew that the place was cleaned up to welcome him. Fu Guangjing was not interested in these welcoming ceremonies. He will invest in this factory if what Feng Yu said about the machines and technologies from the Soviet Union were real. Mr. Fu, look. This production line was just set up and calibrated. Everything in this workshop is new. This is the digital CNC machine. It can produce engine parts and sophisticated bearings. Those workers are working on it. There is little noise, efficient, and definitely the best in China. Fu Guangjing nodded. It was not as noisy as he expected, and the workshops were spacious. The factory covers a large area. There were no factories this scale in Hong Kong. But Hong Kong was not an industrial city in the first place. Fu Guangjing saw a foreigner instructing some workers. This is the expert in mechanical engineering Fong Yu told him about. Mr. Fu, this bearing was just produced. It has 0 defects, and 100% will pass the QC. Fu Guangjing was not interested in these. He was only concerned if there were advanced machines and technologies from the Soviet Union. The purpose of his visit here was completed, but he still got to pretend. He must at least tour the factory for an hour to show that he was seriously considering investing in this company. However, he also can't stay there for long as it will show that he was very interested. Also, the air at the factory was terrible. Fu Guangjing used a handkerchief to cover his mouth and nose while he was walking around. He did not even touch the finished products shown to him by Li Mingde. Those products were oily, and he does not want to touch those with his bare hands. Fu Guangjing had some OCD, and he had to bathe at least twice a day and washes his hands 7 to 8 times. If his hands were stained with oil, it would hard to wash off. Even if the stains were washed off, the smell would still be there, and he would not be able to eat or sleep. But now, Fu Guangjing still cannot leave yet. Li Mingde was getting more excited as he speaks. He saw this big boss from Hong Kong nodding his head and thought that he was satisfied with the factory. It was the office director who noticed Fu Guangjing's discomfort, and he whispered to Li Mingde. General manager, the Hong Kong boss kept covering his nose with his handkerchief. Could it be he disliked the smell in the factory? Why not invite him to the office to look at our past achievements and honor? Li Mingde looked at Fu Guangjing and saw that it was as what the office director said. Visiting the Achievement and Honor Office? This idea is not bad. This company was Bing City's machinery factory previously and had gotten numerous awards. These awards should attract this Hong Kong businessman to invest. Mr. Fu, so you still want to tour the workshops? Why not go to the office to look at our historical achievements? Fu Guangjing nodded. Okay, I also want to look at those. Fu Guangjing kept his handkerchief when they entered the office building. Li Mingde started his introduction and explanations about the factory's history and achievements. These awards were issued by the city government, and those awards were issued by the provincial government. Li Mingde was feeling very proud when he showed those past achievements. Although most of these awards were issued during his predecessor time, he said it as if it was because of him the factory got these awards. After half an hour, Li Mingde still had not finished, and Fu Guangjing was getting impatient. He interrupted Li Mingde. GM Li, can I look at the financial report? Li Mingde's heart skipped a beat. Although the company's finances were not in a mess, it was not transparent. During the restructuring, the value of the fixed assets was inflated, and even Fong Yu could point those out. This Hong Kong businessman might also notice it. Our company's finances are in order, and we have surplus funds. The fixed assets are only the land, factory, machines, and technologies. There is no need to look at these. Really? The value of these fixed assets should be quite high. If I am investing, then will I have some rights to speak on the matters involving finances? Fu Guangjing asked casually. Of course. We are a shareholding company, and all shareholders have the right to monitor the finances. One of our shareholders even stationed someone here to monitor these matters. Li Mingde said. Shit. Why is this fellow from Hong Kong keep talking about the finance? But no matter what, he must invest in the company. If the money is still not returned to the city government, then he will be in the bad books of the city government leaders. Everything was going along as what Feng Yu expected. Li Mingde was eager to sell the shares, but dared not let Fu Guangjing look at their financial reports. Fu Guangjing had studied the situation and discussed with his father. They were willing to accept some losses for the time being. If this company continued to develop, he could get back his investments within 2 years and enjoy the profits for at least the next 10 years. Also, he would be closer to Feng Yu. Fu Rongjing and Fu Guangjing take a serious view on their relationship with Feng Yu. Fu Guangjing deliberately acted like he was taking the bait and invested 20 million renminbi for a 16% stake in the company. He was now the second biggest shareholder of the company. This was not something Feng Yu expected. He did not expect Fu Guangjing to be investing so much and the city government to give him so many shares. But looking closer, the city did not suffer any losses. Whether it was Fu Guangjing's investment or Feng Yu buying into the company using technologies, their shareholding ratio was lowered. On the other hand, the city government had got advanced technologies and 20 million renminbi funds without coming out a single cent. According to the experts in the city, even with 74% of shareholdings, the city government's profits would be more than doubled compared to previous years. Also, the government was still the major shareholder, and the company still had to pay taxes. The expansion of the factory would also create more jobs. This was a big bargain for the city government. Fu Guangjing had used all his money for this investment. His father had given him 10 million Hong Kong dollars, and his mother also helped him raise some money. If it wasn't for their help, he might not even have enough to pay for those used cars. Now, the factory's current assets had more than 30 million renminbi. This made Feng Yu very happy. The coming 2 years, Feng Yu intended to do the Soviet Union's advanced equipment and technology reselling business. He had disclosed some of this information to the motor factory and Fei factory. He was now waiting for them to contact him. Once the orders came in, then he would be able to work with Kirilenko to earn some profits again. Also, he would be able to raise China's technology standards and also leave a good impression on the leaders. As for the time being, Feng Yu would be helping his father manage the food processing factory. Now, Tai Hua premium cooking oil was very popular in Longjiang province. There were even some inquiries from Lin province. The sales had become stable. Temporary. The production was slightly more than the sales. There was still no need to import new production machines. After the new year, the value of the Soviet Union's machinery will drop further. These type of technology and machines will be readily available. Sugar was produced because of the animal feeds. Feng Yu did not expect to earn much from producing sugar. Feng Yu felt that the most profitable would be animal feeds, more specifically, pig feed. China's population and income were increasing rapidly. However, the supply of daily necessities, especially agricultural byproducts, still cannot meet the demands. This was because the country's focus for the past few years was in industrial development. Although the situation was not as bad as the Soviet Union, due to the focus on industrial developments, the government had somehow neglected the development of the agriculture industry. Now, the number of farms were increasing, but there was not much focus on agricultural products. For instance, the pork supply was not enough to meet the demands. The people had money, but they were unable to buy pork. The pork selling in the cities was not fresh pork too. The district which Feng Yu lived in had a chicken farm and pig farm. But these farms were struggling. Last year, the chicken farm had closed. Farming districts and farming villages were similar, but the only difference was that farming districts were more advanced and used more machinery. Everyone living in the countryside would rear some animals themselves. Almost every household reared poultry, pigs, cows, or sheep. They would slaughter them during Lunar New Year. That was the reason why many said that living on the farms was better than living in the cities. The chicken and pig farms had no way to sell to the people in the district, as every household were rearing their own animals. They did consider selling to the cities, but it was not easy to set up the distribution channels. Feng Yu remembered that in his previous life, there was a ranking chart of China's wealthiest men. One of the first few to make it on the chart was in the pig feed business. In the 90s, his pig feed was selling all over China, and he made his fortune from it. Fong Yu did not expect his father's small factory to be the best in China, but at least it should be the best in Longjiang province or the best in the northeast region. Of course, the target right now was to sell the stockpile of sugar. Fong Yu was sitting with the leader of Bing City's food department to discuss selling Tai Hua food processing factories' products in their stores. Chief Zhou, you should know how popular our products are. Now we occupied 10% of the Bing City's market share, and this figure is still increasing. It should reach 30% next year. I am confident that if it is managed well, it can reach above 50%. Fong Yu was bluffing. With Tai Hua factory current production rate, and to supply the goods to the various stores in the province, they barely occupy 10% of Bing City's market. The sales in other areas were growing, and the supply cannot be stopped, or it would affect their profits. This was the time for them to increase their brand equity. But Tai Hua premium cooking oil's popularity was a threat to the food department. They did not expect a small soybean oil factory to capture part of the market share. Most importantly, the food department was facing difficulties recently. Many people, including some leaders, were asking them if the oil extracted using the leaching process was safe to consume. Now it was the market economy, and the government allowed private factories to operate. The food department was unable to order Fong Yu to stop selling those oil or change the production method to a less productive method. They also can't change their current leaching process back to the traditional method. So, they came up with a way to stop the cooperatives from selling these premium oils and to sell them in their own stores. This idea was supported by the city government. However, the representative from Tai Hua factory was a teenager, and he was here to negotiate about this. At this age, shouldn't he be in school? Chief Zhou thought that it would be easy to handle a teenager, but he was wrong. This kid not only wanted the food department stores to sell his sugar, and still wanted the food department to help him promote his sugar. How can the food department support the products from a small private factory and not its own products? But Fong Yu had said that if they don't agree to his conditions, he will not allow the food department stores or the cooperatives to sell his products. He would push his products to those small shops. Anyway, there were more and more small shops popping up in the city. The number of these small shops were more than the food department stores and cooperatives. Chief Zhou was now in an awkward position. On the one hand, he wanted the rights to sell Tai Hua premium cooking oil, and on the other, he does not want to agree to Fong Yu's harsh conditions. This negotiation had come to a standstill. Author's notes. P.S. The requirement to be the major shareholder was to hold more than 2/3 of the total shares and not 51%. Translator's notes. I am not quite sure why the author states that the requirement was to hold more than 2/3 of the total equalities to be considered the major shareholder. From my understanding, owning 51% of the shares would be viewed as the major shareholder. Maybe this is something that only happens in China, or it could be because the factory was a state-owned enterprise. Director Fong, we will not do any promotions for your sugar. There is no room to discuss for this, but we will place your sugar together with your soybean oil, and it will be at an eye-catching place of the store. This is the biggest concession I can give. Fong Yu saw Zhou Kehua's firm attitude and knew that there was no point bargaining further. Anyway, he still has advertisement slots in the papers and TV stations. The sales of his sugar will not be too bad. Fong Yu only wanted to sign a 3-year contract with the food department and nothing more than that. In 1993, this department will cease to exist. Actually, from this year onwards, after the opening up of the food and oil market, the status of the food department had been declining. Now, Zhou Kehua had a lot of authority, but in 2 years' time, he would either be transferred to another department or forced to move to a more relaxed position. Wait, Director Fong, why is your sugar so expensive? The supplier rates you gave us is almost as expensive as our retail prices. Zhou Kehua saw the contract and said, ours is pure fine sugar, and it is sweeter. Also, the sugar will be in packets. We do not sell in bulk. Furthermore, this sugar is produced using the most advanced techniques from the Soviet Union. It will not be discolored easily or attract pests. These are some things that the sugar produced by your department can do. In this era, people buy sugar loosely in small paper bags. The sugar in the food department stores was stored in a large paper bag. If they did not store the sugar correctly, it could attract ants easily. After people buy the sugar, they would transfer to small bottles to store them. The sugar also turns yellow easily. This was not as attractive as packing the sugar in small packages. Sugar is not like salt or cooking oil. No one uses sugar every day. We also produce fine sugar. The cost is not that high. Who would buy your sugar when you price it so high? Zhou Kehua felt that Feng Yu was messing around. People buy the cheapest product typically. Who would buy the most expensive ones? Chief, Zhou don't need to worry about this. You just sell according to the prices I listed. If the sales are not good, you can look for me, or you can be a consignee. I will give you 2 cents for every packet sold. Feng Yu sighed in his heart. Old mindset, thinking that no one will buy expensive things. Wait for another 2 years. People then will not buy food products if they were selling at low prices. Consignment? No, we will not do consignment. Then let's see if your sugar will sell at this price. If there is no one buying, then you don't blame me if I don't order more of this sugar. Fine. If you have no problems with these terms, then please sign. Feng Yu left with the contract. Chief Zhou lit a cigarette and was deep in thoughts. Why was that kid so confident that people will buy his sugar? Isn't those regular fine sugar? Why were they priced so much higher? Feng Yu made a phone call to notify the newspaper agency to release the advertisements for the sugar. It was still soft sell advertisements. These advertisements will continue for the next 2 weeks. Feng Yu believed that with the people's current knowledge, they would be buying his sugar. Also, with the help of the TV advertisements, everyone would remember this Tai Hua fine sugar. The contract was photocopied to a few dozen copies, and Feng Yu arranged Wu Jigang and the rest to other areas in the province. The cooperatives were still smaller compared to the food department stores. People in the cities prefer to go to the food department stores to purchase oil or rice. Feng Yu wanted the food department of that area to look at the contract signed between him and Bing City. He will then use the same conditions to sign a similar contract with the food department of those areas. This would let most people know about Tai Hua's brand. What are you here? Is it a holiday today? Feng Xingtai saw Feng Yu at the factory, and he did not behave like other fathers, who were happy to see their sons. He asked angrily, "You skipped school again?" "Dad, don't hit me first. I have something important. Have you discussed with the farm department officer? Is the pig farm buying our animal feed?" Feng Yu dodged Feng Xingtai's slap by jumping back. The officer had agreed to try it out, but the quantity will not be large. There are not many pigs at the pig farm anyway. What are we going to do with these animal feed? You still asked me to increase the production. Also, the sugar is stockpiled in the warehouse. Why not we sell it to the candy factory to make candies? When Feng Xingtai thought of the sugar, he starts to get worried. Other people sell their sugar in a big sack, and when their customers want to buy sugar, they would wait and put the sugar into smaller plastic bags. Only his son would package the sugar into small packages. These packaging also cost money. Now all the sugar were still lying in the warehouse. They will even make a loss if they sell it to the candy factory. Feng Yu waved the contract. You see this? This is the sales channel for the sugar. I have settled it. Contact the trucks for delivery. The candy factory wants our sugar? They can dream on. The sales channel is settled? That's great. This is Bing City's food department seal? Finally, I can rest assured. If not, the money earned from soybean oil would be used to cover the losses from the sugar. Right? What about the animal feed? There are not many people in our village that rear pigs. 1 week's production can last us more than a month. Dad, did you tell the farm department that we want to take over the pig farm as a contractor? Contract your head. I am already so busy with the factory. You want to work me to my grave? Feng Xingtai was furious and raised his hand to slap Feng Yu. But he noticed that after Feng Yu had finished his last sentence, he had stepped 2 steps back from him. He could not reach Feng Yu. Dad, I have told you many times. A good boss does not do everything himself. Must know how to use people. I asked you to rest, but you just don't listen. We can hire 2 experts in pig farming from the agricultural technology station. We have the animal feeds now. If our pigs can grow faster, then our animal feeds will be selling well. You are talking nonsense. Don't need to manage? Do you know how hard it is to rear a pig? When you were young, we also reared a pig. Do you know how tiring it was? If the pigs fall sick, you will be so busy till you fall sick too. We will hire people to take care of the pigs. Your job next time will be drinking tea, watching TV, and playing mahjong every day. Occasionally, you can walk around the factory, and if you are bored, you can count your money in your passbook. If not, you can go on holidays with me. China is big and should be enough for the both of you to tour a few years. When you are bored with China, you can go overseas. Anyway, you don't need to worry about money in your lifetime. Feng Yu starts to persuade his father. Get lost. Your father is still not that old. What drinks tea, watch TV, and play mahjong every day? Talk about yourself. You should be studying hard to get into a good university. I don't expect you to be someone great, but you should not be worse than others. Don't worry. I will definitely be entering university. I can even enter the best university in Beijing. Let's not talk about this. We shall go and look for the farm department officer first to be the contractor for the pig farm. We might even be in time for the New Year and Lunar New Year festivals. Fong Yu dragged his father to look for the farm department officer. When the officer heard that Feng Xingtai was looking for him, he immediately put down his work and went out to welcome him. This was the first private factory in the district, and the factory was renowned throughout the whole province. This factory was built during his time at the district, and this was considered his achievement. Maybe next year he might be transferred to other departments and be the leader there. You want to contract the pig farm? Old Feng, I had agreed on behalf of the pig farm to buy your animal feeds. Why are you trying to rear pigs yourself? The officer was feeling weird. The sales for animal feeds was not doing well, so they decided to rear pigs to consume their own animal feeds? What logic is this? That's right. Officer, we do not want to contract the pig farm. We want to buy the pig farm and the land behind it. Next year, we want to build a bigger pig farm. A modernized pig farm. Fong Yu used the pencil to circle an empty plot of land on the farm map. Modernized pig farm. Modernized pig farm. Machines to feed animal feeds, water, and clean up the pigsty. It will only require a few people to rear more than 1,000 pigs. Fong Yu said firmly. The modernized pig farm that Fong Yu mentioned was something he read in the papers in his previous life. He knew that it was not too complicated, but the initial investment was a bit high. However, if the scale is significant, the cost will be lower than using the traditional method. Also, building this pig farm had other benefits. He would be able to get the attention of the leaders and at least get to appear on the provincial TV station. This was much better than advertising on the papers. As for the distribution channels, Fong Yu was not worried. The coming few years, or even the next few decades, the demand for pork will keep rising, and there will not be the situation where no one wants to buy his pork. If no one from the district wants to buy his pork, he can sell it to the cities. If no one in the cities wants his pork, he can sell it to Lin province. Anyway, the distance was not that great. If Feng Yu were to contract the pig farm, then it would be different. Once the modernized pig farm was set up and the profits start to come in, there will be people who would be jealous of his success. What if the current officer was transferred out and the next officer wants to take back the farm? Picking only the ripe fruits was the skill of some government officials. Contract? You think government officials will talk to you about the contract? How much are you going to invest? The officer looked at Feng Yu. He knew that this kid, who was still attending high school, was the one who makes all the decisions in the family. At least a few million RMB in the initial phase. Just the construction of the pigsty will cost a lot. However, the farm should be able to produce at least 2,000 pigs in a year. In future, it will be producing more than 2,000. Feng Yu might not be investing so much after all. But the more he said, the more the farm department would be willing to sell. Feng Yu wanted to tell the officer that the farm would produce 10,000 pigs a year, but that would be too impractical. 2,000 pigs? This pig farm can be sold to you, but I need to discuss with others to determine the price. But don't worry, we will sell the farm to you. The officer was beaming with joy. This was another political achievement. The pig farm was struggling to make ends meet. The most pigs it can produce in a year was only about 500. Now, this number was multiplied a few times. Feng Yu said, "Oh yes. Initially, we did not want to buy the pig farm. We had set up the sales channels for our animal feeds, but Deputy Farm Officer Wen kept persuading us. That's why we had come to this decision." Feng Yu knew that this was a great political achievement, and he cannot let this officer get all the credits. He must at least let Uncle Wen get part of it. Wen Dongjun wanted to be a civil servant in future, and it would help if his father were a high-rank officer. Furthermore, even if Wen Dongjuan's father got promoted to be only a deputy mayor, he would be able to help Feng Yu a lot. The officer understood Feng Yu's underlying meaning and smiled to Feng Yu. Deputy officer, one must be part of this project. He is also one of the leaders in the farm department. The farm department discussed for about 2 hours. Their primary concern was that who would be in charge of this and how much to sell the pig farm and the land for. The pig farm was losing money every year, and since there was someone who was willing to buy it, then they should sell it fast. There were only a few workers at the farm. They can be transferred to other departments. Previously, the chicken farm was losing money every year and eventually it was closed. In the end, just like the food processing factory, this pig farm would be under the charge of Wen Deguang. There were others who wanted to take on this role, but the officer only said one thing. They are only buying this pig farm because of Wen Deguang. Wen Deguang knew immediately that it was the Feng family that helped him. Even if others were jealous, there was nothing they can do, as Wen Deguang and Feng Xingtai were good friends. As for the issue of how much to sell the pig farm and the land, there were arguments. There were some who said to sell it based on the market rate of about 300,000 renminbi. There were some who wants to refer to the price of the food processing factory, 500,000 renminbi, and there was even someone who said, since the Feng family was so rich, then they should ask for more. At least 1,300,000 renminbi was suggested by Wen Deguang. The others all wanted more than that. There were even some who questioned Wen Deguang if he was giving the Feng family special treatment because his wife had shares in Feng Xingtai's factory. Wen Deguang just kept quiet after that. After all, he was the most junior and the youngest there. His wife did own some shares of the factory. But what's wrong with that? That time, he was still a small village head. Finally, the deputy farm officer that suggested the highest price was assigned to negotiate with Feng Xingtai, together with the farm officer. If they could get more money, they would be able to use it for other things. These were also considered political achievements. Have you finished talking? Fong Yu said, and looked at Deputy Officer Su as if he was an idiot. This guy thinks that his whole family were stupid and would pay whatever they asked for. It's only the pig farm and the land. The location was also out of the way, and there was no one staying nearby. Yet they still wanted such a high price. With this price, they can buy a piece of land in the suburbs of Bing City. I will only offer 500,000 renminbi for this piece of land, including the pig farm. Also, I have a condition. You must fix the road leading to the farm. It doesn't need to be cement road, but at least a dirt road. The road cannot be flooded during heavy rains, and the width should be at least enough for 2 trucks to travel side by side. Impossible. Why should we help you to fix the road? You want to set up a pig farm? You should fix it yourself. Also, 500,000 renminbi is too low. At least 1.3 million renminbi. Just the pig farm alone was worth 500,000 renminbi. Deputy Officer Su shouted and continued asking for more. Really? Since the pig farm is so expensive, then we can't afford it. Treating a loss-making pig farm as a treasure, you can keep it for yourself. Let's forget about this project. Just treat it as if I had not mentioned it. We shall make a move first. But Fong Yu and Feng Xingtai stood up. Feng Xingtai did not partake in the negotiations. He had complete trust in his son. After they reached home, Feng Xingtai asked curiously, "You are not buying the farm?" "I am buying." "Then why did you say all those? They didn't chase after us. How will you carry on with the negotiations?" Feng Xingtai said, "Dad, just wait patiently. They will contact us, and if I am not wrong, the one who will be coming to us is Uncle One," Feng Yu said calmly. At the same time, the leaders in the farm department were having a meeting. Deputy Officer Su still insisted on that price and said that the Feng family will accept it eventually. But the rest did not believe him. The Feng family was wealthy, but they were not stupid. You mentioned 1 million during the meeting, and when negotiating, you told them 1.3 million. If it was you, will you accept it? It was evident that Deputy Officer Su was not suitable to carry on with the negotiations. The chief officer also should not lower himself and go over to Feng Xingtai's house. Finally, this task was assigned to Wen Deguang. Everyone discussed for a while and decided on 800,000 renminbi. They felt that Feng Yu would be able to accept this price. This was also because of the insistent Deputy Officer Su. 800,000 renminbi? Uncle One, do they know what 800,000 renminbi can do? Do they know that the pig farm is not even worth 100,000 renminbi? You can go back and tell them that I will be present at your department's morning meeting to do the calculations for them. We will put everything on the table and discuss. Wen Deguang sighed. He also knew that Feng Yu would not agree to it. But for Feng Yu to go to his department meeting tomorrow and explain personally was already saving him from embarrassment. "Son, how much are we buying the pig farm for?" Zhang Muhua asked her son out of curiosity. "Mom, not much. The most 500,000 renminbi. You don't stare at me like dad. I will show you the potential of the pig farm, and within 2 to 3 years, I can recoup my investments. After that, we will be enjoying the profits every year." In Feng Yu's heart, even if the investment failed, after the provincial government built the highway a few years later, the value of the piece of land would increase over 10 folds. Author notes. P.S. Many readers reflected to me that they do not like the song Lousy part. The later part of the story will have nothing to do with them anymore, but Song Xiaofeng will appear again. Thanks for supporting my story.